Chapter 201, Part 1. Seeing the death countdown begin in the Temple of the Void, the many prodigy of all races present also began to lose their temper. Each one of them directly put the Void Order in their hands into the Void Scale that appeared in front of them, exchanged it for the treasure they wanted, and chose to exit. They are not crazy. According to the Void Temple, only one person in the entire temple can stand and be crowned king, and the rest will become his stepping stones and step on his corpse. Even a fool can see that in this case, the position of King of the Void is no different from the default position. Who can fight against this monster Chen Beiyuan? Even if everyone present joins forces, they may not be able to hurt him. But with one punch, none of them would feel pain anymore. I'm opting out. Seeing that the situation was unfavorable, Lin Shao also decisively withdrew, fearing that if he stayed for one more second, Chen Beiyuan would twist his head off and use it as a ball. As the saying goes, those who understand current affairs are heroes. His son of fortune is naturally a hero among heroes, and he also decisively replaced the 78 void tokens in his hand with some heaven and earth spiritual materials that can contain souls, preparing to use them for Fairy Master. Chen Beiyuan, the green mountains will not change and the green waters will flow forever. Sooner or later, I will stand upright in front of you and fight to the death with you, instead of huddled in the corner like now, not daring to show my face. I must get back what I once lost with you. Lin Shao clenched his fists and swore secretly. Today's shame of standing like a slave will be washed away with blood sooner or later. The sounds of exiting were heard one after another. The figures in the entire Void Temple are gradually decreasing. In an instant, only the top prodigy from the Donghua Empire and Tushan Su, the fourth in the Void ranking, were left in the entire Void Temple. Beiyuan, brother, I would like to congratulate you in advance. Brother Beiyuan, Shaoxi thinks he is inferior, so he won't waste time here. Beiyuan, if something happens in the future, let someone report it. I, the king, will definitely be obliged to do so. Beiyuan, the relationship between the Qin family and the Zhang family is already good, so they will naturally get closer to each other in the future. Zhang Yunfan, Madman Zhu, Wei Wushuang, Wang Daoxian, and Qin Shaoxi all also expressed their congratulations. At this moment, there is no so-called brain-dead drama of internal fighting among our own people. Zhang Yunfan looked at Chen Beiyuan in front of him. A complicated look flashed in his eyes, and he sighed secretly in his heart. He really doesn't have much confidence. It is definitely impossible to say that Prodigy is not unwilling. But for things that have no chance of winning, everyone should preserve the last trace of dignity for each other. There is no need to make things too embarrassing and make others laugh. Before leaving, Zhang Yunfan and others all looked at Tushan Su for a moment, obviously aware of the terrifying threat contained in him. This saintess of the Qingqiu Fox clan may not be simple, but may also be of a monster. However, in the Void Temple at this moment, there is a terrifying existence that is superior to the monster. In an instant, only 4 people, Chen Beiyuan, Bai Ruowei, Zhang Yunhua, and Tushan Su, were left in the entire Void Temple. A special combination of 1 man and 3 women. However, just when Chen Beiyuan thought that Tushan Su, the extremely mysterious number 4 on the Void list, wanted to stay until the end to have a showdown with him. But he saw Tushan Su suddenly looking at him with a cold and arrogant expression, his eyes lingering on him for a few seconds, as if he wanted to remember him deeply. Just after seeing Bai Ruowei and Zhang Yunhua next to Chen Beiyuan, a hint of coldness appeared on her charming face. She immediately snorted coldly and threw the Void Order in her hand directly into the Void Scale that appeared out of thin air in front of her. Take something away. At the last moment of teleportation, she suddenly threw something out. Swish! Tushan Su, who was dressed in a green shirt, was enveloped by the power of Void and suddenly disappeared from the temple, leaving only a wisp of fragrance. Chen Beiyuan's eyes flashed slightly, and he raised his hand to take the object. It was a beautiful sachet exuding fragrance, and there was a concentric knot tied on the sachet. The whole sachet still has a little warmth, and Na Xiang has obviously been keeping it close to her body before. I saw a concentric knot tied on the brocade sachet, which represented the husband and wife are united. Bai Ruowei's eyes changed slightly, then returned to the original state, but her movements of stroking the snow-white fox became a little heavier. Zhang Yunhua felt that his fists were hardened. Okay. Open it in person and send a love token directly, right? This clearly doesn't take them seriously. If you dare to send such a thing this time, next time you dare to send a fire packet directly? Shameless. Zhang Yunhua deeply hated this kind of woman who didn't love herself. Chen Beiyuan held the brocade sachet in his hand, took it to the tip of his nose, and sniffed it. The fragrance suddenly hit his nostrils, and a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It seems that he is still a character who is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, but he doesn't know how hot he is on the inside. At this moment, a certain guess in his mind became more and more accurate. In front of Bai Ruowei and Zhang Yunhua, he calmly took it into his arms, just like an ordinary gift. It's not a good habit to throw things away. I'll keep them for her first and return them to her next time I encounter them. Bai Ruowei looked calm, as if she hadn't seen him, with a smile on her face. She looked at the single-digit countdown of the Void Temple, knowing that it was time for the two of them to leave. Beiyuan. Bai Ruowei suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck, getting closer. Suddenly, a flash of scarlet light and the sound of her stomach growling directly interrupted her next movements. A certain little silly dragon that had been sleeping for a while was woken up by hunger. I saw that the blood dragon mark between Chen Beiyuan's eyebrows suddenly turned into a red light, turning into an excited and lively little figure, like a human, constantly crawling around Chen Beiyuan's body, while constantly waving the bottle in her hand. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the bottle in the hand of a certain little silly dragon almost hit the big Nana of the two girls. Bai Ruowei and Zhang Yunhua were not aware of it, and received several blows. However, they were strong enough to bounce the murder weapon back immediately. Nai, 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 nai. Ah, slave, want a drink? Nai, nai. Stop. Snapped. Chen Beiyuan conveniently gave the noisy Anu a hard slap on the butt. You really don't feel bad for this wasteful thing. It's not yours. What to do if it's broken? Immediately, he smiled apologetically at Ruowei and Yunhua, and quickly went up to help Ruru. Sorry, Ruowei. Yunhua, are you okay? I'm too proud of her. It's okay. I think she's hungry. She didn't mean it. Beiyuan, just hit her hard a few times. Don't hit her too much. Chapter 201, Part 2. It's almost time, Beiyuan. Yunhua and I will leave first. Bai Ruowei obviously saw that Anu did it on purpose, and she was so angry that her teeth started to itch. Originally, the two of them wanted to take advantage of the last few seconds to give Beiyuan a farewell kiss, but it was too late because of a little light bulb. I remember you. The two women were teleported away. In the entire Void Temple, only Chen Beiyuan and Anu, one big and one small, were left. One person and one dragon, big eyes staring at small eyes. Snapped. Someone was obviously not convinced, and the angry little silly dragon received another slap on the butt. Chapter 202, Part 1. Chen Beiyuan knew very well that Anu, this little silly dragon, definitely did it on purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't be such a coincidence. The little silly dragon that got hit twice for no reason was so angry that it started to roar like a little gas tank and bite everywhere. Deduct a bottle of Nana from you. Chen Beiyuan was drooled all over his face, but his expression remained unchanged. He interrupted her spell casting with just one sentence and took a handful of it. Anu's Nina is in limited supply every day. Fix 2.5 bottles a day, one in the morning and one in the evening, and half before going to bed. A certain little gas tank, who was filled with anger and roared like a dragon. His eyes widened on the spot when he heard that he was about to deduct a bottle of Nana. Wouldn't this cost her life? Yuan were wrong. Anu's cute and chubby face instantly stuck to her, and she actually learned the skill of acting like a baby, without any teacher. Mua, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. There's no point in apologizing. Nana will definitely take the deduction, but for the sake of your obedience, I'll give you something else today. Chen Beiyuan looked at the well-behaved Anu in front of him and nodded slightly with satisfaction, looking like a child with a teachable expression. Suddenly there was a marrow-cleansing fruit in her hand and placed in front of her. Among the two major divine fruits, Yingshou fruit may be the most useless to Anu. As a pure-blood dragon race, her lifespan is already far longer than that of the human race. Once she returns to her peak, living for 1800 years will be just a play. Even if Chen Beiyuan eats all the Yingshou fruit, he can't beat her. In contrast, marrow-cleansing fruit, which enhances talent and enhances bloodline, has a greater effect on this little silly dragon. Countdown is over. A total of 198 Void Walkers in the Void Temple chose to withdraw from the competition for the King of the Void. Currently, there is only one Void Walker left in the Void Temple, and the upcoming killing mode has been cancelled. Congratulations, Chen Beiyuan, the top of the Void ranking. You are the strongest person with the highest potential in this Void Temple trial. You will receive the honorary title of King of the Void. Next, you will be transported to the inner hall of the Void Temple to receive the gifts from the temple. The cold and majestic voice of the Void Temple sounded again, when a more powerful force of void enveloped the whole body. The smile on Chen Beiyuan's face gradually dissipated, and his face became more solemn. Finally got to this point. Next, it depends on his methods. Void Temple, Inner Temple. A tall and plump figure, wearing a silver-white silk pattern dress, with a proud figure, like a ripe peach. The figure of Princess Dongfang is looking at the two figures, one large and one small, on the empty screen in front of her with complex eyes. At this moment, she was no longer covered by the divine light of the void, but instead showed her true face. The beautiful and charming face of the temple weapon spirit seemed to be a little regretful and lost. It's a pity, little guy. Over the years, you are the only man who has attracted my sister's attention. This is the first time my sister has seen such a big guy. You are much better than the bad guy master, as long as your cultivation level is higher. With the cultivation of the 7th grade War Emperor, my sister will not give up on you. There is no way, sister doesn't have much time left. The energy of this temple is running low, and it urgently needs new energy injection. For the sake of the gift you gave to my sister will increase the share of the gift from the temple. It has to be said that the mysterious weapon spirit still has a lot of affection for Chen Beiyuan, a man who has always been invisible to him. As soon as the other party entered the Void Temple, she was vaguely aware of her existence, and later learned many secrets of the Void's secret realm. All this made her full of curiosity about this little man. The heart that had been lonely and empty for hundreds of years began to agitate. I can't wait to take off all the clothes on his body and take a closer look. Of course, these are secondary. What really makes the mysterious weapon spirit feel complicated is that she always feels that the other person knows her existence, or even knows her. Of course, this sounds absurd, but it is her keen sixth sense as a woman. Unfortunately, as a temple weapon spirit, although I can control this temple, there are restrictions. I cannot directly attack the Voidwalker. Otherwise, my sister would have eaten you long ago. The temple weapon spirit couldn't help but lick the fiery red lips. A look of desire appeared on his face, and he clenched his hands subconsciously. Drops of water came out of the bitter tea seeds held in the hand. I don't know what she used this thing to wipe with, but it got all wet. At this moment, a wave of void suddenly appeared in the hall in front. Chen Beiyuan suddenly appeared in the inner hall with a little girl chewing fruit. If we follow past practices, the temple weapon spirits will use the divine light of the void to cover their bodies and conceal their true appearance. But this time, she didn't, obviously intending to treat Chen Beiyuan with his true face. Swish! Chen Beiyuan raised his eyes and saw the figure of a tall and plump royal sister sitting in front of the void throne that controlled the core of the entire void temple. She was wearing a silver-white silk pattern dress. Chen Beiyuan is also tall in human race, but in front of the temple weapon spirit in front of him, he is still 2 heads shorter, which shows how tall he is. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the opponent is not only tall, but also big. Even though Chen Beiyuan has a terrifying heart and amazing will, he couldn't help but pause for a moment at the opponent's arrogance. Hiss. It was actually bigger than his head. I'm afraid this thing is really deadly. Even the little silly dragon who was chewing the fruit was a little stunned when he saw the big thing. She looked at her plain chest, then at a Yuan who was a little dazed, and her cheeks instantly bulged with anger. Seeing that the visitor was frightened, a trace of pride flashed across the face of the temple weapon spirit. He raised his white neck proudly and slowly stood up from the throne, causing a wave of turmoil. He looked down at Chen Beiyuan below and said playfully, "Little guy, welcome to the core of the temple. As long as you are willing to kneel down and lick my feet, I will give you more feedback. Concubine Huang, long time no see." Chen Beiyuan spoke abruptly, directly interrupting her next words, and the title in his mouth caused the expression of the temple weapon spirit to change instantly, and his eyes suddenly became alert, staring at the man standing in front of him with his hands behind his back, with a mysterious smile on his face. "Who are you?" Chapter 202, Part 2. How do you know my name? Chapter 203, Part 1. Who are you? How do you know my name? Huang Fei's pupil shrank and her eyes widened. The tenderness in her eyes disappeared without a trace in an instant. Her eyes became void and cold, staring at the man in black standing in front of her with her hands behind her back, looking majestic. If she had only guessed that Chen Beiyuan had a problem before, now she is almost certain. Because the name Huang Fei was her name taboo thousands of years ago, before she fell. After her death, she met the Bad Master by chance, and with his help, she became the weapon spirit of the Void Temple. Over the years, she has never publicized her former reputation. Coupled with the passing of nearly 1,000 years, even the name Huang Fei that was once very familiar to her felt strange. But now, a teenage kid has actually revealed his name taboo from thousands of years ago. This is a bit creepy. This also means that the other party is coming for her from beginning to end. In vain, she is still obsessed with S**X. Sure enough, I have been lonely and empty for too long, and my brain is not enough. She actually didn't react until now. Boom. A terrifying coercion that far surpassed that of the 8th grade war emperor instantly erupted from the Void Temple, manifesting the divine power of destroying the world and pressing down on Chen Beiyuan. Chen Beiyuan, tell me your identity and purpose, as well as everything you know. Otherwise, I will banish you to the long river of void, seal your 5 senses, trap your soul in the body, obliterate your mind, and you will never be reincarnated. Concubine Huang scolded sternly. As a temple weapon spirit, she is limited by the rules of the temple and cannot directly attack the person in front of her, but this does not mean that there is no way. You only need to change the teleportation location when teleporting it away and throw it into the Void River, Forbidden Land. It's hard for him not to die. However, what surprised Concubine Huang was that even though she was enveloped by the terrifying power of the Void Temple, Chen Beiyuan, however, remained calm and composed, without showing any fear, as if he was not affected. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He looked at her with complicated eyes and said in a calm voice, "How did I know your name?" "Of course you told me." "As for who I am?" "Concubine Huang, I am Su Ming. I am your master, and I have returned from reincarnation." Su Ming, owner, returning from reincarnation? Concubine Huang's cold face was stunned for a moment, and her empty and cold eyes seemed to stir up a stormy sea. Even the terrifying divine power on his body was violently agitated involuntarily. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could he be the reincarnation of his master? This is so damn outrageous. But if this is the case, all the strange things before seem to have explanations. He was aware of her existence from the beginning, knew the situation in the secret realm of the void, had terrifying strength far beyond her peers, and also knew her true name. But this is too outrageous. The master has been dead for so many years. She really couldn't accept the sudden reincarnation of her master. This is just like a mature woman who has been alone at home for many years, and suddenly one day an 18-year-old strong, powerful, and handsome young man appears and says that her husband has returned from reincarnation. This is a bit surprising, I know. I was frightened. Perhaps seeing Huang Fei's shock, Chen Beiyuan continued to pursue the victory. 879 years ago, as the 9th grade god of war, I was besieged by powerful enemies, betrayed by a traitor, and ended up in a situation where I was in danger of death. However, in fact, a trace of my soul was still intact, and I accidentally entered the place of reincarnation. After years of training, he finally reincarnated and returned. After reincarnation, I have no memory at all, but when I stepped into the Void Temple, the memories of my previous life kept popping up in my mind. I gradually knew everything and gradually understood everything. Huang Fei, I am Su Ming. I am the former 9th grade god of war. I am your master, and I have returned from reincarnation. In this life, I will take back everything that once belonged to me, take you back to the top step by step, kill the enemies and traitors of the past, and go higher. Chen Beiyuan's eyes were full of vicissitudes, and he looked at the Huang Fei in front of him with uncontrollable affection. His voice became extremely soft, as if he was meeting an old friend he hadn't seen for many years. At this time, he finally started to take action. Being stared at by Chen Beiyuan's aggressive eyes, Concubine Huang suddenly felt hot all over. Some pictures suddenly appeared in her mind, and she was afraid to look directly at him. This look is similar to that of the Bad Master back then. It always makes her itchy to look at her. Just when the two were confronting each other, and the atmosphere became increasingly ambiguous. Snapped, the fruit in the hands of the little silly dragon who was eating fruit suddenly fell to the ground, immediately breaking the ambiguous atmosphere. I saw that Xiao Shalong's eyes widened, and he looked in a daze at a Yuan, who looked like a different person in front of him. What a Yuan said seemed inexplicably familiar to her, and she always felt like time was out of place. There is always a feeling that this is my line. No, I need to grow my brain. Just when the little silly dragon was caught in the storm of thoughts, he suddenly noticed that his hands were empty. He was shocked and quickly picked up the fruit that fell on the ground and took a few bites. Then, she took the fruit and wiped it on a Yuan's trouser legs a few times, and continued to eat happily. Bah, bah. What's the use of thinking so much? It's more important to just do the work. Seeing that the atmosphere was accidentally broken by this silly little dragon, Chen Beiyuan sighed slightly in his heart, knowing that the other party would definitely react, but he was not too upset. After being interrupted like this by Anu, she had been feeling empty and lonely for too long. The love-minded Huang Fei instantly regained her consciousness and looked at Chen Beiyuan in front of her with a faint look, as if she had reacted. It is undeniable that what Chen Beiyuan just said shocked and frightened her from the bottom of her heart, as well as a little surprise that was hard to suppress. However, at this moment, she suddenly recalled a crucial thing and noticed a fatal loophole in the other party's mouth. It is undeniable that what you said scared me a little. I almost believed that you were the reincarnation of the master. The blush on concubine Huang's face dissipated. She looked at Chen Beiyuan in front of her with unknown meaning and said quietly, "But my master seems to be a woman." The previous owner of Void Temple was actually a woman. This is undoubtedly breaking news. Then here comes the problem. It seems that Chen Beiyuan is a man. The difference seems to be quite big. Can face the fatal questions raised by the temple weapon spirit. The smile on Chen Beiyuan's lips remained unchanged. He replied calmly and without changing his expression. Chapter 203, Part 2. Reincarnation, there are some slight changes, it's normal. Chapter 204, Part 1. Reincarnation, there are some slight changes, it's normal. Chen Beiyuan naturally knew that Su Ming, the former master of the Void Temple, was a woman, but so what? It has been said that the 9th grade god of war has reincarnated and returned. It is slightly different from before, which is naturally normal. Isn't it just that there are a few extra things? That's all a minor problem. Concubine Huang didn't say whether she believed it or not, but he believed it first anyway. If you don't believe it yourself, how can you expect others to believe it? You say you don't believe it? You haven't even been reincarnated yet, you know nothing. At this time, we must not reveal the slightest flaw easily. We must first deceive the temple weapon spirit in front of us. Knowing the plot of the original work, he knew very well that the temple weapon spirit in front of him had considerable authority over the temple, as long as he could conquer it. So, it can be said that almost half of the 9th grade weapon Void Temple fell into his hands. As for the other half, you can take your time. From beginning to end, he was planning more than just the title of so-called King of the Void. The Void's secret realm contains terrifying resources. The Void Temple, a 9th grade divine weapon, tall, plump, passionate, lonely and empty temple weapon spirit. He, complete, all, want. Facing Chen Beiyuan's calm answer, even the look on concubine Huang's face became a little weird. It seems indeed, there is some truth to Yazi. After all, she has never been reincarnated, so she really doesn't know that much in this regard. Moreover, the way he looked at me really looked like the bad master back then. No, it's worse than a bad master. In the past, the bad masters could only talk a lot and always speak loudly, but they were still far behind. The Chen Beiyuan in front of him made up for a lot of the difference. Simply perfect. The change is indeed quite big. Concubine Huang looked in a certain direction with strange eyes, licked her lips, swallowed, and said thirsty. She had witnessed it with her own eyes before, and it was officially certified. It's really quite appetizing, I know. It's quite scary. However, it seems that his thing is still in her hand. He can't be empty, right? Thinking of this, concubine Huang became even more excited. Exciting at this moment, concubine Huang, who was caught up in endless reverie, did not realize at all that her vigilance and defense against Chen Beiyuan were gradually being broken down bit by bit. At this moment, she didn't even notice the strange light in Chen Beiyuan's affectionate eyes as he looked at her. Very good. Case solved. His lost tea seeds. It was this idiot Qiling who did it. Haha. My things are not so easy to get. Perhaps he sensed that a bad woman was coveting his treasure. The angry Anu flashed past and stood in front of a Yuan. He blocked the evil gaze of a bad woman with his two balls and glared at her. That is a slave. Faced with the declaration of sovereignty by the little potato in front of her, Huang Fei didn't take it seriously at all. A playful smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and she stood up straight, shaking proudly. Children, you can't grasp it. This kind of thing requires a talented person like my sister. If you want to deal with this monster, if you don't have the capital to survive, you will be eaten up in minutes. Of course, even though she was a little obsessed with lust, concubine Huang still maintained the last trace of reason and reserve. She did not believe it easily, but proudly raised her snow-white neck and looked down at the greedy little guy in front of her. It is undeniable that your rhetoric is very powerful, but you still lack some substantial evidence to prove that you are the reincarnation of the master. Unless you come up with some evidence that can make me happier, as a proud temple weapon spirit, how could she easily believe the words of a strange man? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Of course, although she said she didn't believe it, at this time, she had obviously begun to have some inclinations. This is the same as saying no, please stop. At this time, it is natural to increase the attack speed. Seeing the prey begin to take the bait little by little, the smile on Chen Beiyuan's face became stronger and stronger, and he began the final killing blow. Evidence? Of course there is. And there are a lot of them. If I remember correctly, there seems to be a mole on your inner thigh. You like to wear white kachatsi the most. At most, you have to change at least 7 or 8 pairs a day. He likes to spy on me taking a shower, and he also has a very serious narcissism. Shut up, I believe you. Seeing the dark history being revealed bit by bit, the arrogance on concubine Huang's face suddenly became unbearable, as if her most secret disguise had been stripped away, and she quickly shouted to stop. Her eyes began to look uncertain and disbelieving. If the previous events can be explained by various other absurd reasons, the private matters between her and her master are really unexplainable. After all, this is something that only she and the master know. Could it be that the Chen Beiyuan in front of him is really the reincarnation of his master? At this moment, her mind was in a state of confusion. She probably never dreamed that the reason why Chen Beiyuan knew so much was purely because he had read the original work. In the original plot, there are many plots about Devil Chen and the artifact spirits of the temple. In order to tame this unruly and fierce horse, Devil Chen used up all his strength. The plot between the two lasted for more than 10 chapters, from the outer hall to the inner hall, to the throne, to the palace, to the hot spring. The beating was almost till the earth was turned upside down. The sun and the moon were dimmed, the heaven collapsed, the great Tao was wiped out, and the beating could not stop at all. During this period, Devil Chen continued to torture Qi Ling, forcing her to reveal many secret things. The weapon spirit who rolled her eyes after being beaten did not hesitate to sell the former owner, and also told some things that she and the owner could not describe. Chen Beiyuan was very impressed by this plot of the original work at the time, and now it comes in handy. Seeing that the temple weapon spirit was lame due to his little trick, even the way he looked at him changed. Chen Beiyuan also understood that the pursuit of victory was coming. He raised his foot, fell directly over Anu's head, and walked towards the opponent. Anu? Concubine Huang, whose mind was in chaos, was trying to calm down. Suddenly, a slightly petite figure appeared in front of her, and she was immediately grabbed by the wrist and pulled into her arms. The hot breath sprayed on her snow-white neck, causing a burst of crimson color. Chen Beiyuan's gentle voice reached his ears. Come on, master, give me a hug, boom. Chapter 205, Part 1. Boom. The temple weapon Ling Sha's face turned red as he was held in his arms by a domineering figure. When he came into close contact with the solid chest in front of him and the strong aura of the opposite S**X, the string of reason in his mind collapsed instantly. Man, it's a man. From the time she was alive to the time she died and became a temple weapon spirit, she had never been hugged by a man for thousands of years. Her tall and plump body began to tremble slightly. Although the chest in front of her was not broad, it was very strong, and the slow and powerful heartbeat gave her an indescribable sense of peace and security. At this moment, it doesn't matter whether there is any doubt, whether it is the master or not. Who are you calling? The owner had told her to find another one, which meant that she had the freedom to choose. Nowadays, a man who is suspected to be the reincarnation of her master appears and meets her needs in all aspects. It is simply perfect. After being a vegetarian for so many years, I can finally eat meat. Huang Fei, long time no see. You are fatter than before. Chen Beiyuan only felt that he was tightly wrapped in a huge ball of cotton, and he truly felt how vicious the wave was. He was already tall in the human race, but now he looked a little petite in front of the temple weapon spirit. Holding her was like a child holding its mother, giving people a strange feeling of confusion. Although Chen Beiyuan had tried his best to overestimate the other party, after close contact, he still found that he had underestimated. I'm afraid by Ruowei, Zhang Yunhua, Leng Ruobing, and these lucky heroines combined are not as big as her. Such supreme grade is just right for making meat pads. However, he knew very well that this was not the limit of the temple weapon spirit. She still had huge potential and room for development. The previous master of the temple did not have the ability in this area. At most, he just used his words and wasted the talent of the temple's weapon spirit. Now, if it were him, it would be completely different. As the saying goes, a key fits a lock. Since a certain sufferer doesn't have the talent to open locks, he can only let him open them and use them. When things have reached this point, it is already more than half successful. To be honest, does it really matter whether he is the reincarnation of the temple owner? Are the temple weapon spirits really that stupid? Is there really no other way to verify his authenticity? Is an old fox who has lived for thousands of years really that naive? So stupid? Of course she has such clear means. But why does she want to verify it? Does the truth really matter? We are all adults, and we already know some things. You covet my body, I covet your waist. There is no justifiable excuse for each other. You have needs, and I also have needs. We need each other, communicate with each other, and tolerate each other. This is just like some wife's cheating movies. Are women who cheat on their husbands really that stupid? Haha, they are not fools, they just don't want to make themselves miserable. At this moment, the temple weapon spirit is equivalent to the dead husband, the original wife who has been widowed for many years and has been empty for a long time. And Chen Beiyuan is equivalent to the Good Samaritan, who likes to help people solve their problems. See people's hearts over time. Temple weapon spirit. I've been suffering for so many years, why can't I enjoy it? Chen Beiyuan also caught her mentality and gradually pulled her into endless abyss. If you want to get something, you have to pay something. Chen Beiyuan has already made the corresponding psychological preparation. Those who achieve great things do not stick to trivial matters. In order to acquire the 9th grade magic weapon, Temple of the Void, Chen Beiyuan has been mentally prepared. Master, how good are you? As soon as concubine Huang heard Chen Beiyuan calling her fat, she immediately started to shake with dissatisfaction, with an angry expression on her face. You heartless person, people have been waiting for you for so many years, and you will bully them as soon as you come back after reincarnation. I have to say that, worthy of being a 1,000-year-old fox, he changed his words very simply and without hesitation. I love you, so I want to bully you, Chen Beiyuan said with an affectionate expression. In an instant, the two actors looked at each other affectionately and began to lose themselves in the play. As for the little potato who was screaming in anger, he was naturally ignored by this pair of mad men and resentful women. Qingqiu Fox Clan. Tushan Su Su, who had just been teleported back, suddenly stopped for a moment. A strange look flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly felt a sense of loss worrying about gains and losses. Above her head, the 9-tailed celestial fox, lying on the purple auspicious clouds and lazily bathed in the bright golden light, suddenly opened its eyes, and a hint of weirdness flashed through her eyes. What happened? Donghua Empire. I heard that the gift from the Void Temple is extremely mysterious, and the process of accepting it is extremely painful. I guess Beiyuan is suffering. He is still so young, but he always works so hard. The pressure is really too much. Bai Ruowei and Zhang Yunhua, who had just been teleported back, had a look of worry and distress on their faces respectively. However, at this moment, they did not realize that the pressure on Chen Beiyuan was quite high, but not that high. Temple of the Void. Master, because you left a backup in your previous life, you still need to pass the test if you want to inherit Void Temple again. This is the rule you set at the time, and even I can't break it. However, to open the temple test, you need at least the cultivation level of an 8th grade War Emperor. Your current cultivation level is still too weak. There is not much energy left in the temple now. It can only last for less than 5 years at most, or even shorter. If you want to inherit the temple again, you must reach the level of the 8th grade War Emperor as soon as possible. A trace of confusion flashed across concubine Huang's face, and after a moment of hesitation, she revealed the current situation in the Void Temple and the worries in her heart. She was really attracted to Chen Beiyuan, and naturally she hoped that he could completely master the Void Temple and become her new master. Chen Beiyuan was not surprised by this. He knew the plot of the original work and was well aware of it. This is why he said that conquering Huang Fei, the temple weapon spirit, was only half the success in mastering the Void Temple. A certain sufferer who had died for hundreds of years still left behind a backup plan before he died. I don't know if he wanted to test the people who came after him, or if he had other purposes. Normally, having the temple weapon spirit should be enough. The backhand, left by the other party vaguely means to check and balance the temple weapon spirit. Did she do it on purpose? Or was it unintentional? Chen Beiyuan's eyes flashed, as if he thought of something. Could it be that the Lord of the Void Temple has not really fallen yet and deliberately left behind, waiting for his return to take over? However, in the original work, the other party seems not to have appeared. Chapter 205, Part 2. Could it be that there was an accident? If the other party is really not dead yet, and suddenly finds that his weapon spirit has been surprised by an outsider, that picture is really unimaginable. Chen Beiyuan frowned slightly. A strange feeling flashed in his heart, but it did not show up. He looked at the worried temple weapon spirit in front of him with a gentle expression. I know this, don't worry. I am the reincarnation of the 9th grade war god. My cultivation speed is much faster than ordinary people. It is not difficult for me to become the 8th grade war god. Chapter 206, Part 1. Regardless of whether the Lord of the Temple is still alive, Chen Beiyuan cannot give up the Void Temple. When he set his sights on the 9th grade weapon, Temple of the Void, he already regarded it as something within his grasp. As long as he plans it, the 9th grade weapon, Temple of the Void, will become one of his biggest trump cards in the future. No matter what kind of enemy you encounter, you can remain invincible. In the original work, the owner of the Void Temple was fallen when he was attacked by several powerful enemies of the same level, coupled with the siege of a large-scale alien legion, and a traitor stabbed him in the back. Among them, the biggest factor in the fall was because of the traitor. If it weren't for the betrayal of the traitor, the temple owner could rely on the special characteristics of the Void Temple to escape into the Void River at almost any time and easily play tricks on those powerful enemies. The power of the 9th grade magic weapon is so terrifying. Not only that, but the temple owner's lifetime wealth is also hidden inside the Void Temple. The treasure left by a 9th grade god of war is enough to make any top empire in the real world crazy. For me, it is also a big deal. Benefit. Nowadays, the great steward of the temple artifact spirit has a general tendency to surrender. It allows me to operate many things internally. The next operation will naturally be much simpler. As long as I transform the weapon spirit into my shape step by step in the next few years and break through to the 8th grade war emperor, I can completely take the entire Void Temple into my hands and use it for myself. At that time, even if the master of the temple is not dead, it will be useless to try to play the return of the god of war. Chen Beiyuan thought to himself, and at the same time, he took out a bottle of Nana from the system space and stuffed it directly into the mouth of the angry little silly dragon that was screaming, awe, and crawling around, instantly calming him down. Suck, suck, suck. The little silly dragon sucked Nana hard, turning his anger into strength. His cheeks were bulging, and he looked at the two big water balls in front of him with ferocious eyes. If a Yuan hadn't been holding her, she would have been blown away with one punch. Concubine Huang didn't have much fear of Anu's ferocious gaze. However, she was slightly surprised by the vague dragon race power that appeared on Anu. Knowing his origin must be impressive. What a rich dragon race bloodline. Its richness is even scarier than most pure-blooded dragon races. Is this little potato the rebirth or reincarnation of some top dragon emperor? Dragon race is the top group in the myriad worlds, and its talent potential is the top existence. It is not unusual for a monster to awaken a reborn or reincarnated talent. However, judging from the faint aura of imperial power on Little Potato, her cultivation during her lifetime was probably very close to that of the rank 9 dragon god. Could it be that she was reincarnated on purpose? As the weapon spirit of the 9th grade divine weapon, Huang Fei is also very insightful, and she can easily see through the little silly dragon Anu's little secret. Seeing that Chen Beiyuan was so confident, and that he was accompanied by a cub that was suspected to be the reborn top dragon emperor, and that he had many secret tricks. Huang Fei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At just over 10 years old, he has so many opportunities and his cultivation strength is unfathomable, so he must be a person of great luck. Regardless of whether he is the reincarnation of his master or not, it is obviously very possible to break through to the 8th grade war emperor within a few years. If coupled with her forceful force, the chance of success would undoubtedly be higher. She didn't know why, but from the first moment Kachatsi saw him in a dark tree hole, she had a sudden affection for him. The man in front of her seemed to have an inexplicable appeal and special magic power, which made her unable to help but have a strong trust in him. Master, according to the rules set by the Void Temple, as the Void King in this trial, you can receive a gift from the temple, refine your own qualifications, and awaken a divine ability method that is most suitable for you. Within my personal authority, I can double the energy of this temple gift at most, allowing you to obtain a more powerful and more suitable divine ability method. However, when accepting gifts from the temple, you need to experience the pain of having your soul and body washed away by the river of void. At this time, Chen Beiyuan's previous seduction and fooling finally paid off. Hone your qualifications. Awaken the method of divine ability that suits you best. This is a gift from Void Temple. The former gives higher potential, and the latter gets stronger combat power. This gift is enough to transform a person into a new person and go even further. 100 years ago, Mr. Chen broke through the 8th grade war emperor and reached the strongest position in the human race in just 100 years because he received the temple gift. His awakened fighting divine ability has made countless alien ferocious beasts fearful. But now, what Chen Beiyuan can get is twice as much as King of the Void before. This shows the benefits of eating soft rice but hard food. Anu, come down first. Chen Beiyuan patted the butt of the little silly dragon who was slurping the bottle in his arms, put it on the ground, and then walked directly towards the void throne in front of him. Master, please sit down first. Concubine Huang was originally ready to guide the process, but she didn't expect Chen Beiyuan to sit directly on the void throne. His skillful actions made her slightly stunned, and then she recalled the mystery revealed by the other party before, as well as her extremely familiar situation with this void temple. A complex look appeared on her face. Let's start. As if Chen Beiyuan didn't see the complicated look on the other person's face, he slowly closed his eyes and said, Okay, master. Under the control of concubine Huang, the entire void temple began to tremble crazily. The extremely terrifying void energy suddenly erupted, surging towards the void throne, in front of him, constantly pouring into Chen Beiyuan's body. In an instant, Chen Beiyuan felt as if his physical body was in a long river of void. His body and will were being washed away little by little, and endless severe pain began to swarm in, almost drowning him. At this moment, even Chen Beiyuan felt that his terrifying physique, which was comparable to the 7th grade divine weapon, was not worth mentioning in front of the void. At best, they are like bigger ants. But even so, he still had no intention of stopping. Instead, he became even more crazy and absorbed the void energy, roaring crazily in his heart, Void! Void! Boom! The abyss, deep in the soul, suddenly opened a pair of huge bloodshot eyes, and a forbidden, terrifying power spread silently. Ding! It is detected that the host is absorbing void energy, and its saint rank qualification has been slightly improved, and it has begun to awaken the divine ability technique that is most suitable for itself. Ding! Congratulations to the host for awakening the humanistic divine ability, Void Dharma Body. Chapter 206, Part 2. Chapter 207, Part 1. Boom. The terrifying void light column surged from the temple, continuously pouring into the tall and majestic figure on the throne. Just when Chen Beiyuan was sitting on the void throne to accept the gift from the temple. But under the throne, the figures of Huang Fei and Anu, one big and one small, were staring at each other with a posture of enemies meet on a narrow road. TSK, Dragon Race is famous for its arrogance and conceit. It always acts like the boss is the boss, and when it gets mad, it dares to hit its own parents. It's rare to see a little female dragon like you, especially when you listen to a human. Tell your sister quietly, are you angry with your master? He. A pure-blooded dragon race with extremely high blood concentration and rank 9 dragon god qualifications, or even higher, actually likes a human? If those old antiques of dragon race knew about it, I'm afraid they would go crazy. The phoenix concubine slightly lowered her waist, her two proud fruits trembling slightly, looking at the little potato in front of her with interest, who looked like he was about to jump up and hit her knees, and she was amazed, with a little smirk on her face. She was not a fool, so she naturally saw the special feelings of the little female dragon in front of her for her master. You know, dragon race are a group of arrogant guys, most of whom have a personality similar to Aolai. The cruelty, cold-bloodedness, domineering, and madness in their bones cannot be concealed, which is almost a gene engraved deep in their blood. But the little female dragon in front of the master almost subconsciously restrained her sharp claws, as well as her cruelty, cold-bloodedness, domineering, and crazy side, and only showed her cute, adorable, greedy, and playful side. This is interesting. There is no so-called good baby in dragon race. This little female dragon is clearly a human knight. Suck, suck, suck. Big, nigh, nyo. Anu, who was sucking on the bottle, widened her eyes and looked at the two big water balls on her head like a 1,000-pound burden. She cursed fiercely and wished she could blow them up with 2 punches. If a Yuan hadn't stopped her from hitting these 2 big balls, she would have done it long ago. As for why a Yuan didn't let her hit them, maybe he wanted to hit them? Something seems wrong. The little silly dragon paused in sucking the bottle and was stunned on the spot. Could it be that a Yuan wanted to teach the Denanyo in front of her a lesson? Hey, Yuan. Kwe. Oh. The little silly dragon's eyes lit up after he reacted, and the speed of sucking the bottle began to speed up obviously. Seeing the ferocious little silly dragon in front of him suddenly grinned, sucking the bottle excitedly, as if he had fallen in love. The smirk on the face of the phoenix concubine suddenly paused, as if it disappeared for a moment, but it quickly returned to its original state. She straightened her waist, stirred up a storm, and continued to tease. What's the point of sucking that? If you want to suck this. You're sick. Anu sucked the bottle expressionlessly and used the words she learned from a Yuan to characterize the temple spirit in front of her. Kacha, the fist was hard. The smile on the face of the phoenix concubine froze, and looking at the arrogant little ghost in front of her, she really wanted to spank her. At this moment, a violent wave of void attracted the attention of the enemies and drew their eyes to the majestic figure in black on the void throne in front of them. Is this the power of void? Concubine Huang's face was startled, and she stared blankly at Chen Beiyuan sitting on the throne, with a hint of astonishment flashing in her eyes. Master has awakened the void type of divine ability technique. Void is a mutant power of space and time. It was born between the two. It combines the advantages of the two and is one of the top powers. There are very few divine abilities related to void, but each one has terrifying power and effects. It is extremely difficult to comprehend the power of void. At least apart from her previous master, Concubine Huang has never seen another being who has comprehended the power of void. But now, Chen Beiyuan has succeeded. Chen Beiyuan, who has understood the power of void, is undoubtedly very compatible with the 9th grade weapon, Void Temple. It is a perfect match for her, and it can just make up for and satisfy her emptiness. Is this God's will? Concubine Huang stared blankly at the majestic figure on the throne, her face gradually covered with a look of obsession. She couldn't help but swallow her saliva and lick her lips. The little silly dragon next to him looked at the silly cow in front of him with a look of disgust, but he gradually stopped sucking the bottle in his mouth and looked at a Yuan. As the void light pillar dissipated, Chen Beiyuan, who was sitting on the void throne, suddenly trembled. His eyes slowly opened, and he stood up. A wave of nothingness flashed across his body. The next moment, in the shocked eyes of the two people, with a flash of light silver, the Chen Beiyuan in front of them suddenly split into two, turning into two Chen Beiyuan. What is even more shocking is that the auras and fluctuations on the two Chen Beiyuan are almost exactly the same, as if they were carved from the same mold, making it difficult to distinguish the true from the false. Snapped, the little silly dragon had the bottle in his mouth and instantly dropped it to the ground. He stared at the two identical Yuan in front of him with wide eyes, full of disbelief. Even Concubine Huang frowned slightly, as if she was trying to distinguish whether the two people in front of her were real or fake. It's not yet time for the two of them to guess whether it's true or false. Click. Along with the sound of the void shattering, the two Chen Beiyuan in front of them actually looked at each other and punched each other at the same time. The moment the two fists collided, they turned into scarlet dragon claws. It's actually blood dragon transformation. Boom. Fist collision. The terrifying power suddenly broke out. There is no difference between the two. What a void Dharmakaya. The two, Chen Beiyuan, spoke at the same time, and their voices and tone were exactly the same. Click. Immediately, in the shocked eyes of the two women, the two Chen Beiyuan suddenly filled with silver light. A few glass cracks appeared, shattered, and turned into nothingness. Snapped. There was a round of applause. The body of the temple weapons spirit trembled, and he straightened his back subconsciously, with a blush on his face. The huge millstone caused a stir. What are you looking at? A familiar voice suddenly sounded from behind. Void Dharmakaya, human Tao divine ability. Void is nothingness. Dharmakaya is the true body, true and false, false and false, true and false. It is difficult to distinguish the true body. Reproduce a void body with 60% of the power of the body. As long as the mind is immortal, the void body will be immortal, have independent abilities, and can freely switch between the virtual and the reality, between the body and the body. Chapter 207, Part 2. Chapter 208, Part 1. Void Dharmakaya. This humanistic divine ability involving void ability has undoubtedly given Chen Beiyuan a terrifying improvement in strength. Although the consumption of this humane divine ability is extremely terrifying, but just because it can almost reproduce 60% of the power of the main body, and can also freely use and display the corresponding divine ability, and has the characteristics of being elusive, difficult to distinguish between true and false, and switching between virtual and real, you can see its characteristics. Horrible. If operated at a critical moment, it is probably one of the strongest, life-saving abilities. Chen Beiyuan is undoubtedly very satisfied with this divine ability. With the saint rank qualification, he quickly grasped the essence of void body, almost immediately after awakening, and instantly incorporated it into his own combat system, turning it into a real combat power. It must be said that the surprise brought to him by the temple's weapon spirit was definitely not small, but it was far more than that. Huang Fei, why are you blushing? Chen Beiyuan said with some confusion on his face, knowingly. At this moment, he felt deeply what a millstone was. Most people can't handle this stuff, but once they fall into it, it can be really fatal. Seeing that the master has awakened such a powerful method of divine ability, concubine Huang couldn't help but be excited. The voice of the temple weapon spirit was slightly trembling. His face was flushed with excitement, and his eyes gradually became trance-like. Chen Beiyuan kept moving his right hand, and took out his void order with his left hand and continued to speak with a serious face. Huang Fei, I still have some void tokens that need to be exchanged. Can you see how much I can exchange for them? Master, you still have 2,836 void tokens in your hand. I checked carefully, and it should be possible to replace them with an ordinary 8th grade magic weapon, or something corresponding. The temple weapon spirit was very qualified as a great butler, and quoted the corresponding price in an instant. However, Chen Beiyuan was a little dissatisfied. Can you only exchange for an ordinary 8th grade magic weapon? Could it be that you miscalculated? Maybe it's more than that. If it were anyone else, even an 8th grade magic weapon of ordinary quality would make them crazy. However, Chen Beiyuan possesses 2 top-notch 8th grade magic weapons, Ancient Dragon Slaying Bow and Ancient Dragon Prisoning Lock. In this case, some ordinary goods are naturally a bit difficult to catch his eyes. At this time, it is natural to do some internal operations. Otherwise, why would he attack the temple weapon spirit for no reason? That must be that concubine Huang got it wrong. The quality of the void order in the owner's hands is obviously somewhat special. It seems to be the supreme grade that is rare in 1,000 years. It is thick, big, and so strong. There should be more than that, but judging from the naked eye, it is obviously difficult to estimate. By the way, concubine Huang's palace has the corresponding equipment to help test it and estimate the specific price. Concubine Huang looked at Chen Beiyuan in front of her with watery eyes, licked her lips with a hint of thirst, and looked at him meaningfully, like a wolf grandmother with malicious intentions, extending an invitation to him. Okay then, let's go and have a look. Chen Beiyuan pondered for a moment, and there seemed to be a moment of hesitation on his face. Then he nodded slowly under the excited eyes of the other party. Immediately, he knelt down and looked at Anu, who was sucking the bottle in front of him. With a gentle smile on his face, he stroked the little silly dragon's head. Anu, good boy, don't run around here. Ayuan is going to discuss something with Sister Qiling. He'll be back in a while. I'll take you back then. Okay? Uh-huh. The little silly dragon sipped the bottle, looked at a yuan in front of him, nodded seriously, and was very obedient. After saying that, she sat directly on the ground, slurping the bottle, and looking straight at him with a pair of cute big eyes. Her well-behaved reaction made Chen Beiyuan feel dazed for a moment. He seemed a little surprised, but then he felt a little relieved and stroked her little head. Okay, I'll be back soon. Anu, who was sitting on the ground, watched helplessly as Yuan and the bad woman walked side by side towards a dormitory deep in the temple. Click! The door to the bedroom opened and the two of them walked in. Snapped! The door closed heavily. The little silly dragon sitting on the ground looked straight at the closed door, lowered his head slightly, and continued to sip on the few remaining baby bottles. The cuteness on his face gradually dissipated, as if he was in a daze, and murmured to himself. Said, slave, wait. Yuan? In the bedroom, with a man and a woman alone in the same room, a certain temple artifact spirit, who had always been reserved, finally revealed his true nature and let out a proud laugh. He looked at the people in front of him like a big bad wolf and was deceived into a trap, feeling a little panicked, bewildered, prey. Wait a minute, concubine Huang. What are you going to do? Why did you close the door? Chen Beiyuan's slightly panicked voice suddenly appeared. Ha ha ha, you can scream. It's useless to break your throat. This palace is made of the iron of the void. No matter what happens inside, you can't hear it from the outside. Just surrender and capture it, master. Don't worry, sister will love you well. The temple weapon spirit laughed triumphantly, looking greedily at the helpless little sheep in front of him, as if he wanted to swallow it in one gulp. I have been suffering for so many years, and I know how to eat fast and pray to Buddha every day. The previous owner was just a talker and useless. Now, I can finally enjoy myself and have some meat. Looking at the panicked Chen Beiyuan in front of her, she just felt an itch in her heart. However, at this moment, she did not realize the seriousness of the matter. After all, who is the real prey? You mean what happens inside can't be heard outside? Suddenly, Chen Beiyuan's calm voice sounded again. However, for some reason, this time he was not only no longer panicked, but also a little more playful. You can talk about this kind of thing earlier next time to avoid wasting so much of each other's time. The temple weapon spirit was stunned for a moment, and before he could react, he was enveloped by a huge shadow. Help! Help! Master, I was wrong. Come here. Help me, kill me. Come quickly, people. The life of the weapon spirit is also life. In the dormitory, the temple weapon spirit suddenly broke free from the restraints behind him and ran to the door and beat it wildly, trying to call for help. But he was quickly dragged back by the tall and majestic figure behind him. Chapter 208, Part 2. Chapter 209, Part 1. The most straightforward way to tame a fiery horse is the most primitive and direct violence, allowing her to clearly understand who is the master. The following habits are committed. Can't get used to it. Disobedient, right? Beat. You like to clap your hooves, right? Beat. You like barking randomly, right? Beat. You like to kneel down and beg for mercy, right? Late. Like on top. The temple artifact spirit could never have imagined that what she had seen before was not Chen Beiyuan's true limit. When he used Blood Dragon transformation, his combat power reached an even more terrifying, almost inhuman level. In this state, not even a giant dragon can withstand any of his moves. Concubine Huang has suffered a lot. Wrong. Half an hour later, Chen Beiyuan, who had put on new clothes and had slightly damp hair, looked as if he had taken a bath. He walked out of the palace refreshed and radiant, and he also closed the door behind him. As for the original suit, I accidentally got wet with water. It was soaked and I couldn't wear it anymore. The words are crackling and powerful, but once I start to practice, I am just a rookie who likes to talk, and I know how to talk hard. He also said that if he takes a break, it will work, but if he doesn't, he won't. What does taking a break mean? You will be tough talking to the end, but after a while you lose your toughness. Do you still want to be a female pornographic woman like this? It's really a good idea, but it's useless. Such a good physique is wasted. Chen Beiyuan's face was calm, but there was a trace of disappointment in his eyes, as if he was not very satisfied with the performance of a certain female yellow hair. This guy's performance is much worse than that of late stage in the original plot. During the late stage, The temple artifact spirit battled with Chen Laoma for nearly half a month before finally losing. Now, this guy starts howling in less than 3 minutes. Chen Beiyuan knew that this should be due to the difference in mentality before and after. In the original work, the spirit of the temple weapon has a mentality of preferring death to surrender. Even if he is beaten to death, he will not surrender. He is so stubborn. Even if he is hit with a stick after a stick, he is still a tough talker. No pain. It just doesn't hurt. But the current temple weapon spirit? Chen Beiyuan goes down with 3 sticks. No matter how stubborn you are, you can die in an instant. You still have to practice. According to the original work, the talent of the temple weapon spirit is still very powerful. However, subsequent excavation and development are still required. Of course, the process may not be ideal, but the results are still good. Chen Beiyuan still blasted a wave of gold coins from the temple weapon spirit. Originally, according to Huang Fei, more than 2,000 void tokens could only be exchanged for an ordinary 8th grade magic weapon or something equivalent. But after internal negotiations and transactions between Chen Beiyuan and her, the more than 2,000 void orders were finally replaced by an 8th grade top skill and an 8th grade top magic weapon. Dian Soul Method, 8th grade cultivation technique. The legendary forbidden magic comes from the core secret method of the ancient demon sect, Zhen Soul Sect. It can forcibly increase one's own soul power by swallowing the soul of the strong and read part of the target soul's memory. Note, this magic is too overbearing. When absorbing other people's memories, it is very likely to be interfered by the emotions contained in it. Please control your mind. God-Killing Thorn, 8th grade magical weapon. The 8th grade top magic weapon refined by Ancient Clan. It is a special magic weapon specially used to restrain their old rival Soul Clan. This magical weapon is invisible, colorless and odorless, difficult to detect, impossible to detect, elusive, ignores the physical body, and specializes in killing the soul. Dian Soul Technique was unexpectedly obtained by the temple owner Su Ming when he was outside the territory. However, because it was an evil forbidden magic technique, he did not choose to practice it and threw it directly into the treasure house. Chen Beiyuan was very interested in it. Knowing that this thing was a good thing for improving the soul, he replaced it. The God-Killing Thorn was accidentally found by the temple owner Su Ming in a secret realm left behind by the Ancient Clan. Ancient Clan is one of the ancient myriad races. They like to research magic weapons that can restrain all races, and they can research them every time. This 8th grade magic weapon is used to restrain the Soul Tribe and other similar ethnic groups who have no body but only pure soul bodies. This thing is definitely a good thing for Yin people. Being beaten for no reason. Even the 8th grade War Emperor couldn't bear it. In order to get these 2 good things, Chen Beiyuan tried his best to get them from the temple weapon spirit. For this reason, Chen Beiyuan owed the other party twice. Host: Chen Beiyuan. Age: 18. Cultivation: War King Peak, 6th grade. Exercise techniques: Prison Suppressing Demonic Sutra, 8th grade. Wordless Medical Sutra, the only one. Zhuang Dao Sutra, 8th grade. Dian Soul Technique, 8th grade. Hidden Dragon Technique, Secret Technique. Combat Skills: Forbidden Demon Destroying Flame Palm, Forbidden Demon Destroying Hell Fist, Forbidden Demon Destroying Blood Slash, Prison Suppressing Shackles. Divine Ability: Blood Dragon. Transformation: Ferocious Beast. Divine Ability: Immobilization Spell, Taoist. Divine Ability: Yaju Bai, Born. Divine Ability: Life and Death Dependence, Luck. Divine Ability: Heaven's Child. Fortune Gazing Technique, Luck. Divine Ability: Void Law Body, Humanistic. Divine Ability. Qualification: Saint Rank, Fighting Spirit. Fate: Destiny Villain. Items: Divine Transformation Stone, Wordless Medical Scripture, Ancient Dragon Prison Lock, Ancient Dragon Slaying Bow, God-Killing Thorn, Bishi Broken Armor, Troll Puppet, False Poison, Marrow Cleansing Frooks 83, Ingshou Frooks 318, Equipment Spirit Underpants. During this trip to the Void Temple, Chen Beiyuan undoubtedly had a lot to eat. Not only did he reach the peak of the King of War, but he also obtained 2 Divine Tree Fruits, Divine Ability in the Void, Saint Rank Qualification, 2 8th grade Divine Weapons, an 8th grade Skill Book, Preliminary Conquering of Weapon Spirits. Who wouldn't be confused after seeing a series of prophets? Just when Chen Beiyuan was feeling slightly happy, he saw a little potato sitting on the ground in front of him, his head lowered and huddled up. The smile on his face gradually disappeared. Anu, who was holding the bottle in his mouth with his head lowered and fell asleep, suddenly heard the sound of subtle footsteps. He slowly opened his eyes through a gap and suddenly saw a pair of long legs. Before she could react, she was picked up by a pair of big hands and placed into a generous and familiar embrace. She raised her little head and saw the familiar face in front of her. Her lovely face was instantly filled with a smile, and she murmured like a dream, Yuan, you are back? Slave, didn't run around? Anu is so good, let's come back. Chapter 209, Part 2. Looking at Anu, who was yawning in his arms and hugging his neck, full of nostalgia, Chen Beiyuan, the scumbag, seemed a little guilty on his face, and his tone of voice was gentler than usual. At this moment, he was like a single father who abandoned his children and went out to hang out with bad women. Well, it's all Huang Fei's fault. Chapter 210, Part 1. If it weren't for the bad woman Huang Fei's constant obsession, I wouldn't have left Anu alone outside for so long. Chen Beiyuan naturally placed all the blame on a certain mysterious weapon spirit that turned into a cream puff. Everything was caused by the other party's coveting of her beauty, and he was just an innocent victim. As a victim, it is reasonable to take revenge severely, right? Although it took a while, the result is still good. As long as everything is under control, I will have a trump card that can make a comeback at the critical moment. Lin Xiao, the son of fortune, is just an artificial chess piece. The mastermind behind him is what I need to pay attention to most at the moment. In addition, my Void Temple has gained huge benefits this time, but there are also quite a few hidden dangers. The divine fruit of heaven and earth and the 8th grade divine weapon are all treasures in the eyes of countless people. As long as these things are gathered in the hands of a powerful human race, there will be no big problem. But when they all converge on a 6th grade war king, there is no doubt that such a kid holds gold and is coveted. As Chen Beiyuan coaxed Anu, who was gradually sleeping peacefully in his arms, a strange light flashed in his eyes. He has not forgotten his current situation. Nowadays, he seems to be going smoothly, moving forward with determination, and enjoying unlimited glory. In fact, he is walking on thin ice, and if he makes a mistake, he will fall to pieces. After all, it's because of strength. His cultivation is still too weak. He still needs more power. Need to become stronger. The temple gift has ended and the final transmission has begun. The cold and majestic voice of the Void Temple finally began to sound after being delayed for so long. A void force instantly acted on Chen Beiyuan and Anu, and they began to teleport. Normally, the last Void King will be transported back to the real world soon after receiving the gift from the temple. But because of the selfish desires of a certain mysterious weapon spirit, he directly used his authority to intervene, causing him to stay in the Void Temple for a while when he should have gone back long ago. At this moment, Chen Beiyuan still doesn't know that due to the passage of time, things about him in the outside world have become more and more serious. Real world. As time passes bit by bit, the top empires of the human race and the top forces of the alien beasts all focus their attention on the temple projections, on the sky that had not dissipated for a long time. At the same time, the news about Chen Beiyuan's presence in the secret realm gradually spread, causing a storm. Marrow-cleansing fruit that can extend lifespan, refine talents and understanding, and strengthen blood vessels? Chen Beiyuan actually swallowed the fruits of 2 sacred trees by himself? How can he, a mere 6th grade war king, be able to enjoy such divine fruits of heaven and earth, and use all the things from heaven to do so? The legendary 8th grade top magic weapon, Ancient Dragon-Slaying Bow, actually appeared in the hands of Chen Beiyuan. Chen Beiyuan also used this magic bow to slay dragons, kill Ao Lai, the dragon son of Wanlong Island, and kill Bei Yin, a trace of the Dragon Emperor's imperial brand. This kid is still humiliating the Northern Flame Dragon Emperor's imperial thought brand in public, and doesn't even take a dragon race's most powerful person seriously? Is he crazy? This boy also possesses more than 2,000 void tokens, which may be enough to exchange for an 8th grade magic weapon. The 8th grade magic weapons that even 8th grade war emperors may not be able to hold are now in the hands of a junior Lin, and there are more than one. A 6th grade war king is suspected of possessing 2 8th grade magic weapons, 2 heaven and earth spiritual fruits, and countless chance treasures. This kid is so crazy that he goes on a killing spree in the secret realm of the void, killing all races. How is this behavior different from that of an animal? When various aspects of Chen Beiyuan's performance spread from the mouths of the surviving prodigies, the impact was no less than a huge bomb dropped on all parties. 8th grade divine weapons, divine fruits of heaven and earth, gifts from the void, The options, full of temptations, are now focused on Chen Beiyuan, a junior, but many people are beginning to be tempted by it, especially those old monsters whose lifespan is about to expire. For them, the infant lifespan fruit that can extend their lifespan is enough to make them completely crazy and do some crazy things. For those war emperors who do not yet have the 8th grade magic weapon, the 8th grade magic weapon in Chen Beiyuan's hands is undoubtedly the fastest and easiest way to obtain it. At worst, he can just grab it and run away and hide overseas. Even if the name of the young master of the Chen family scares young people, is it possible that it can still scare them? In the face of interests, I don't care who you are. Heavenly King is here. He must die too. By family. Beiyuan. Bai Ruowei was dressed in white and looked at the temple projections on the sky with worried eyes. Obviously, she had also heard the rumors that were constantly circulating outside. In the Void's secret realm, Chen Beiyuan was a nearly invincible existence. He could kill and kill all the way, turning the world upside down, killing everyone, and becoming invincible at the same level. But once he returns to the real world, there are many strong people with higher cultivation level than him. In addition, he possesses many secret treasures, which will definitely attract coveted eyes. When they were in Secret Realm before, Beiyuan asked her and Yunhua to take 80 Yingshou fruits first and never keep them, for fear of causing others to covet them. Or maybe the family elders found out about it and asked for it forcefully. I must become stronger to protect Beiyuan. Her eyes gradually became firm, as if she had made up her mind. During this trip to the Temple of the Void, she got a lot of opportunities. As long as she could digest them quickly, her strength would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. What's going on? After waiting for so long, the Temple of the Void hasn't disappeared yet? In the past, it didn't end soon after the King of the Void was decided. It's weird. Something seems a little wrong with Void Temple. This time, did something unexpected happen again? Void Temple's different performance from the past also quickly attracted the attention of many powerful people. However, before anyone started to investigate, the temple projections on the sky began to dissipate. Void Temple began to disappear again. Just as the Void Temple began to disappear, a very secret ripple in the void suddenly appeared in a place located on the outskirts of the capital of the Donghua Empire. A tall and majestic figure holding a sleeping little girl slowly walked out. Chapter 210, Part 2. Surprisingly, it was Chen Beiyuan and Anu who returned. Chapter 211, Part 1. Who is that person? Why did he suddenly appear out of thin air? Wait a minute, that person looks so familiar. It's Chen Beiyuan, the young master of the Chen family. The king of this void trial is Chen Beiyuan, who single-handedly slaughtered nearly 1,000 prodigy of all races and possesses the 8th grade divine weapon and the divine fruit of heaven and earth. Why is he here? Could it be that he was teleported here by the Void Temple? With the appearance of Chen Beiyuan, suddenly, there was a series of exclamations and incredible screams all around. The mixed fish and dragons figures in different attires were looking at the two figures, one large and one small, that suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of them in amazement. Their faces were full of astonishment. This is the northern suburb of Yinjing City? As soon as he returned to the real world, Chen Beiyuan looked around with a calm expression and instantly determined his location. Looking around, I saw only strange-shaped rooms that could barely be said to be houses, and some figures with expressions of astonishment and vague surprise and fright. Although it is located in the outer suburbs of Yinjing City, there are still many people living here. After all, not everyone can live in the center of the imperial capital where space is at a premium. As the saying goes, living in the capital is not easy. It is not a simple matter to live in the imperial capital and obtain a residence permit. However, for countless people who yearn for the capital of the empire, they cannot gain a foothold in the city, so they occupy a place outside the city. As a result, gradually, the outer suburbs gradually became a residence in the eyes of many people who wanted to make a name for themselves in the capital of the empire. As time goes by, the identities of the residents gradually become a mixed mix. Some unidentified criminals occasionally mix in. As long as they don't cause trouble, the big shots above won't pay attention to them. However, there is still regular cleaning every year. Chen Beiyuan was not too surprised that he was teleported to this place instead of returning to the original location where he entered the Void Temple. After all, so much time has passed, and it would not be difficult for someone to find out where he entered the Void Temple. If he guessed correctly, There are already many people waiting for him at the position he has entered. Never count on the greed of the human heart. However, although this place belongs to the outer suburbs, it is not far from the city, so it is very fast to go back. Roar. Just when Chen Beiyuan was about to return to the city, the Yai residual soul in his body roared as an early warning towards the north, detecting a subtle malicious attack in advance. Boom. A mysterious figure wearing a stiff human skin mask, wearing dark ghost clothes, and exuding a rotten stench suddenly appeared, and a depressing and terrifying aura erupted from his body. The visitor covered his whole body tightly, obviously deliberately covering his face and not wanting to reveal his true face easily. Bang! A huge wave of air suddenly hit him, and instantly turned into a giant gaseous hand and headed towards Chen Beiyuan to grab him. Qi Dao Divine Ability, Primordial Origin 1 Qi Grappling Hand, Chen Beiyuan. I have no intention of becoming an enemy of the Chen family. Hand over the Yingshou fruit. A gloomy and hoarse figure came from the mouth of the mysterious figure. The terrifying pressure of the peak 7th grade War Emperor suddenly erupted from his body. Although the voice of the charming figure was very hoarse and low, it was hard to describe the excitement and joy in it. His lifespan was about to end, and he was about to die. He wanted to walk the last part of the journey with peace of mind. But I didn't expect to meet Chen Beiyuan, who just came out of the Void Temple and was suspected of having the Yingshou fruit. Seriously, there is always a way out. If you want to live, who wants to die? In the face of life and death, who can remain unmoved? I have covered my face, so I will not involve the family behind me. As soon as I grab the Yingshou fruit, I will immediately take action, escape overseas, and take the magic fruit in order to achieve a breakthrough and go further. No matter how powerful the Chen family is, they can't reach out overseas. As long as Chen Beiyuan doesn't die, they can't bite me. The charming figure suppressed the excitement in his heart and kept talking to himself, as if he had completely abandoned all worries. Seeing someone attacking Chen Beiyuan, the expressions of everyone in the outer suburbs suddenly changed. A few people felt their scalps go numb and turned around and ran away without hesitation, for fear of harming Chiyu. However, more people had uncertain expressions and did not leave directly, obviously hesitating for something. After all, this is a great opportunity. But at this moment, they didn't realize that Chen Beiyuan's eyes, enveloped by the giant gas palm, became cold, as if he was looking at a dead person. A mere 7th grade War Emperor who is about to die of old age and whose strength is less than 70%, dares to stand up in front of him? I just came back and someone is coming to kill me? As Chen Beiyuan's voice fell, in the eyes of a pair of shocked and frightened eyes, Chen Beiyuan just raised his eyes and glanced at the mysterious figure, and then snapped his fingers, setting off a terrifying soul pressure and attacking the opponent. Go! Boom! The gaseous hand was easily wiped away. The limbs of the charming figure of the 7th grade War King at his peak were instantly exploded out of thin air by his body, turning into thick clouds of blood mist. Only a solitary head was left floating in the air. After the Temple of the Void, Chen Beiyuan, whose strength has skyrocketed, no longer needs to enter the Blood Dragon transformation, as before to be able to compete head-on with the powerful masters at the peak of the 7th grade War Emperor. No, no, no. The 7th grade War Emperor, who was instantly killed, suddenly let out a shrill scream, and the human skin mask on his face instantly fell down, revealing his true appearance. Hiss! He killed the 7th grade War Emperor in one glance. Such strength is simply terrifying. It's the second ancestor of the Wu family, Wu Qiheo. It's actually him. The Wu family is the lowest-ranking declining family in the empire, and he actually dares to attack Chen Beiyuan, a young master from a top family. He's crazy. The second ancestor of the Wu family is famous for his charity. He likes to teach the younger generations. When he was young, he was even more righteous. Unexpectedly, I know, his lifespan is about to be exhausted. I'm afraid he has gone to an extreme. The Wu family were die-hard supporters of the royal family back then. Seeing Wu Qiheo's true identity exposed, the scene instantly erupted in exclamations of surprise. Some people were amazed at Wu Qiheo's identity. Some people are amazed at Chen Beiyuan's strength. The Wu family was also among the aristocratic families in the Donghua Empire. Although it had declined over the years, it was still a behemoth in the eyes of many people and should not be underestimated. Wu Qiheo, the second ancestor of the Wu family, is one of the strongest men of the older generation, and his strength is unfathomable. Chapter 211, Part 2. But now, Is it defeated so quickly? At this moment, Wu Qiheo, who was instantly killed, had a dull look on his face, his eyes full of regret and fear. It was obvious that he did not expect Chen Beiyuan's strength to be so terrifying. As a strong man from the older generation, he was defeated so easily by a junior. Chen Beiyuan, I am willing to admit defeat. This matter is all due to my greed. I just hope that it will not harm my family. Noisy, are you qualified to talk to me? Chen Beiyuan's eyes suddenly shot out a terrifying magic light, forcefully piercing into Wu Qiheo's soul. Dian Soul Method. Chapter 212, Part 1. Who do you think you are? If you want to take action, do it. If you want to admit defeat, then admit defeat. Isn't it going to harm your family? Which onion are you? Where did you get such a big face? For people with such abnormal brains, they are just idiots who are chirping. Chen Beiyuan never tolerates it. Under the invasion of the weird magic light of Dian Soul technique, Wu Qiheo, who had only one head left, his face stiffened for an instant, and he felt that his soul was being torn apart bit by an invisible, terrifying magic hand. He opened his mouth and wanted to scream, but he couldn't even make a sound. At this moment, Wu Qiheo completely regretted it. Why should I provoke this little monster? I am really blinded by lard. As long as he doesn't provoke Chen Beiyuan, he can live for at least another year and a half. Silent screams rang out from his broken soul. Soon, his soul was completely covered by the strange magic light of Dian Soul Method, torn into countless fragments, turned into pure energy and a large number of incomplete memory fragments, and was gradually integrated into Chen Beiyuan's soul, and was devoured and digested aggressively. The soul of a strong man at the peak of the 7th grade War Emperor is undoubtedly a great tonic for Chen Beiyuan, and the domineering aspect of Dian Soul Method began to appear. As a taboo magic book that specializes in devouring the souls of strong men and strengthening oneself, its ferocious and ruthless characteristics are destined to be powerful. However, while it is powerful, it naturally also has quite a few side effects. That's when countless messy memory fragments belonging to Wu Qiheo began to rush through his mind crazily. Trouble? Chen Beiyuan frowned, and suddenly felt some swelling and pain between his eyebrows. He subconsciously wanted to use the Zhuang Dao Jing to suppress those incomplete and broken memory fragments. But at this moment, the abyss, hidden deep in the soul, suddenly opened its huge mouth, swallowing up all the soul fragments and memory fragments in an instant. Well, abyss suddenly burped, as if he had eaten a small snack. Immediately, under Chen Beiyuan's surprised gaze, an extremely pure soul energy without any impurities began to gush out from the abyss and merged into his soul bit by bit. Those incomplete memory fragments also turned into movie screens that played slowly in his mind, very peacefully. Boom! In an instant, Chen Beiyuan felt like he was in a hot spring. Prodigy's soul strength, which was already far superior to that of the same level, began to surge crazily at this moment, becoming more than 30% stronger in an instant. At this moment, the power of his soul instantly surpassed that of most 7th grade war kings, and began to catch up with the progress of his powerful body. You're such a glutton, you'll eat everything. Chen Beiyuan looked into the abyss, deep in his soul, with a somewhat satisfied and complicated gaze. Although the origin of the abyss is mysterious, and even I can't figure out the real details, the benefits it brings are still obvious. That is, as long as it is there, no matter what breaks into his soul, it will be a dead end. His abyss. War Spirit is famous for not tabooing meat and vegetables, and will eat whatever he wants without any hesitation. In a sense, what Chen Beiyuan is least afraid of is mental attacks. The side effects of Dian Soul Method were also forcibly neutralized by abyss. Wu Qiheo's broken memory fragments were quickly flipped through in front of him at this moment, as if he were just looking at the flowers, reflecting the various aspects of life. Memories about the body refining of the 7th grade War Emperor, some of the inherited skills of the Wu family, Dragon Transformation Bone Technique, and Primordial Origin 1 Qi Grasping Hand, Wood Emperor 10th Palace Palm, and Lingyun Tianxian Fist, showing up bit by bit in front of him. This is the evil and domineering aspect of Dian Soul Method. Although most of these fragments are incomplete, they are enough to give Chen Beiyuan a lot of insights. It is worthy of the legendary forbidden magic. Even if a stupid idiot with talent gets this evil secret book, he will be able to stir up a bloody storm, stir up the storm, and make a big name. Judging from Wu Qiheo's memory fragments, his appearance should be just an exception. He was not intentionally targeted, and there is no mastermind behind it. Chen Beiyuan thought to himself. At this moment, Anu in his arms seemed to be disturbed by the noise outside. He tossed and turned in his arms. His little head kept rubbing against his chest, and he adjusted his position. Yuan, sleep, sleep, sleep. Okay, let's go to bed, go to bed. Chen Beiyuan patted her back as if coaxing his daughter, with a hint of softness on his cold face. Everything seemed to have passed for a long time, but in fact it was only a few breaths of time. In the eyes of many people around him, Chen Beiyuan didn't even move his hands and was holding a little girl who was sleeping soundly. With just one look, he easily killed the second ancestor of the Wu family, a powerful man who was at the peak of the 7th Grade War Emperor. Such strength can be described as terrifying. This will undoubtedly make some people who want to fish in troubled waters change their faces slightly and subconsciously want to turn around and run away. But at this moment, a violent earthquake sound suddenly appeared with thousands of troops and horses surrounding Chen Beiyuan. Looking from a distance, I saw figures riding dark horses, wearing dark armor, wearing devil masks, holding long spears, with short swords and hammers hanging from their waists, and exuding a strong smell of blood, heading towards them to suppress them. Come. Although it seems that there are only 500 horses, the movement they create is more terrifying than thousands of troops. The weakest aura of each of them is that of the 6th Grade War King, and the strongest one reaches the 7th Grade War King. The aura of the leading cavalry general reached the peak of 7th Grade War Emperor. The jet-black armored horse he sat on was a 7th Grade ferocious beast. It's the Xuanjia army. It's the Chen family's Xuanjia army. Thousands of troops are hiding from the black armor. This was the nightmare of countless alien ferocious beasts on the border front back then. In the Donghua Empire, only the Chen family can raise a private army openly in the imperial capital. It is said that this is a privilege granted to the ancestors of the Chen family by the founding emperor of the Donghua Empire. Over the years, the Xuanjia army has rarely been dispatched. They must be aiming at Chen Beiyuan. Many people present suddenly turned pale, obviously frightened by the thousands of troops in front of them. The aura of battlefield killing in those Xuanjia guards made many people tremble with fear. In an instant, the sweeping Xuanjia army surrounded the entire outer suburbs. Chapter 212, Part 2. A pair of cold eyes and awe-inspiring evil aura instantly swept across the entire audience, making people shudder. Chapter 213, Part 1. It's no wonder that the people present are frightened now. It's really that the reputation of the Xuanjia army is too terrifying. As a direct descendant of the Donghua Chen family, the reputation of the Xuanjia army is known to everyone. Among them, every Xuanjia guard is served by a child of the Chen family, and they are all brave and fearless of death. There are even cases where 100,000 foreign troops were defeated on the border front, and thousands of Xuanjia guards were forced to chase them. A terrifying record of killing more than half of them. 100 years ago, the border front was in turmoil. The Chen family's 20,000 Xuanjia troops were forced to survive under such circumstances. Relying on the right location, they forcibly blocked the invasion of 1 million foreign ferocious beasts. They persisted for a day and a night, laying the foundation for the follow-up. The retreat of the people made an outstanding contribution until the last man died. After this battle, the Xuanjia army became a god in one battle and became a legend in the eyes of countless people. It's a pity that the invasion 100 years ago exhausted the formation and foundation of the Xuanjia army. To this day, the Chen family still has not recovered from the war 100 years ago and has returned to its former peak. The most elite Xuanjia army has not yet been fully staffed. But even so, hundreds of Xuanjia troops are enough to easily destroy some small and medium-sized countries. Snapped. In the eyes of a pair of astonished eyes, the general headed by the Xuanjia army dismounted and came to Chen Beiyuan. His eyes seemed to be on the little girl in his arms. He paused for a moment and then said in a slightly hoarse voice, "Beiyuan, are you okay? As soon as you came out, the family determined your location through your young master's token. Big brother asked me to come over and make sure to protect your safety. Second uncle, I'm fine." Chen Beiyuan raised his eyes and looked at the general wearing black armor and a Shura mask in front of him. His face was a little more friendly, and he spoke calmly. The person in front of him is not an outsider, but his father's biological brother, his second uncle Chen Zhishuan. If Chen Zhiqing, the head of the Chen family, is the face of the Chen family in Donghua, then Chen Zhishuan is the pride of the Chen family. Chen Zhishuan would solve some things that were difficult to deal with, and things that were difficult to face directly. One light and one dark, one positive and one negative. This is the external policy that a truly aristocratic family should have. Chen Beiyuan, the second uncle, rarely shows up and is very low-key. Even most people don't know his true identity. Only those top aristocratic families of the same level are probably aware of its existence. This person is a ruthless madman, and once he takes action, he will cause a bloody storm. Back in those days, there were several cases of savage beasts killing families in the capital of the empire. Several families who dared to openly clamor and provoke the Chen family became history overnight. After Chen Zhishuan's gaze paused for a moment on Anu in Chen Beiyuan's arms, he then looked at the bloody head on the ground. The face behind the evil ghost's mask instantly became ferocious, and the terrifying evil energy condensed on his body, like a beast with its beasts spread out. The toothy beast, Wu family? Wu Qiheo. It's just a dog raised by the Jiang family. The ancestor of the Wu family is also a quasi-emperor. Who gave them the courage to attack me? The young master of the Chen family. It seems that the Chen family hasn't had much movement in these years, and those bastards are starting to feel itchy and don't want to live anymore. Beiyuan, my second uncle will take care of this for you. Everyone in the Wu family will die. At this moment, Chen Beiyuan could clearly sense his second uncle's unabashed murderous intention and determination. It was obvious that he meant what he said. Wu Qiheo of the Wu family dared to take action against the Chen family, so he slapped the Donghua Chen family in the face. The whole Chen family was slapped in the face. If this kind of thing is not washed away with blood, the prestige of the Chen family will be gone. Someone can come and assassinate the young master of the Chen family. After a failure, do you say it's not a disaster for your family? You're just playing house here. If the Wu family is really let go, no one will dare to give it a try in the future. Anyway, it won't harm my family, so what if I give it a try? After failure, at most one of me will die. If it succeeds, wouldn't it be able to soar into the sky? There are some things that cannot set a precedent, and doing so would be a recipe for death. Chen Beiyuan knew very well that if his second uncle really wanted to kill the Wu family, he would still have a way. The strongest person in the Wu family is none other than Quasi-Emperor, the ancestor of the Wu family. Moreover, he is also a quasi-emperor who does not have much lifespan and whose strength is in a period of decline. Although Chen Zhishuan is only the 7th grade war emperor, he is still at his peak. If he cooperates with the Xuanjia army's military formation, he can defend the quasi-emperor hard. When the time comes, it's not certain who will win. However, facing his second uncle's kindness, Chen Beiyuan shook his head and refused. Second uncle, let me take care of this matter. Some things are better handled by me. When the time comes, you can take care of the situation for me, and the ancestor of the Wu family will let me handle it. Chen Beiyuan knew very well that the current situation was due to his low cultivation level and possession of a secret treasure. The reason why Wu Qiheo dared to take action was that he was confident that he was in a higher level than Chen Beiyuan. Now, I am like a piece of fragrant, fat meat, attracting countless coveted eyes. In this case, it is necessary to kill the chicken to scare the monkey, lest some flies dare to make noise in front of him. And the quasi-emperor, the ancestor of the Wu family, is undoubtedly very suitable. Chen Beiyuan has not yet played against the powerful quasi-emperor, so he can try it out. At the same time, the quasi-emperor level powerful soul of the ancestor of the Wu family also made him a little greedy, so he just accepted it. Chen Beiyuan, who had just devoured Wu Qiheo's soul and gained a lot of benefits, coveted the soul of a quasi-emperor. Facing his eldest nephew's request, Chen Zhishuan was obviously stunned, and subconsciously wanted to refuse, but looking at the confident young face, he suddenly remembered something and nodded heavily. Okay, since you opened your mouth, my second uncle will give you face and personally hold the battle for you. Thank you very much, uncle. Seeing that this pair of uncle and nephew casually arranged the fate of an aristocratic family in an understatement, many people present were instantly trembling with fear, looking dumbfounded and a little at a loss. This kind of thing is not something they can listen to. At this moment, Chen Zhishuan's voice sounded again. His eyes moved on their bodies, and he said in a hoarse voice, Beiyuan, what are you going to do with these people? Seeing Chen Zhishuan bring the topic to them, many people's faces turned pale, and they looked at Chen Beiyuan pleadingly to ask for mercy. Chapter 213, Part 2. However, Chen Beiyuan's next answer really plunged countless people into complete fear and despair. Kill them on the spot, leaving no one behind. Chen Beiyuan's answer was also very straightforward, without any pause. He knew very well what kind of people these people around him were. Those smart people and people who knew current affairs had already fled when he had a confrontation with Wu Qiheo. The rest who were left behind were those who wanted to fish in troubled waters and become fishermen. Kill them all without any injustice. Chapter 214, Part 1. Boom! Accompanied by the sound of thousands of troops galloping, mixed with the tearing of flesh and blood and miserable howls. An almost one-sided massacre took place instantly. No, Master Chun, spare your life. Master Chun, spare your life. I've just been blinded by lard. Let me go, let me go. I still have a mother who is over 100 years old to support. Chen Beiyuan, you devil, you devil. Ah, Chen Beiyuan, you must be nice. At this moment, the massacred people only regretted why they did not take advantage of the chaos and run away first. But because of their own selfish interests, they wanted to stay and fish in troubled waters. As a result, the fish was not caught, but instead countless bloodthirsty and cruel, deep-sea giant sharks were attracted, and they could not even save their lives. The Xuanjia army's dispatch naturally cannot be concealed from anyone. As a pro-soldier of the Donghua Chen family, he is also the only terrifying existence in the Donghua Empire that is controlled by a top family and is not subject to the supervision of the top of the empire. It has the power to destroy the country and enjoys the privilege of killing. The Xuanjia army has always been a taboo in the eyes of major aristocratic families. 100 years ago, at its peak, the Qin family had tens of thousands of Xuanjia troops and millions of troops. Perhaps it was not the number one in the empire in terms of the number of top combat forces and other aspects, but it is the only terrifying existence that can dig out the roots of any top family in a short period of time. The roots were all dug up, and all the family members were killed, leaving only a few family ancestors and senior officials. The so-called aristocratic family is destined to exist in name only. It would take hundreds of years to recover. Even the royal family Jiang family cannot do this. 100 years ago, when the Qin family's Xuanjia army was almost completely destroyed, the top families in the Donghua Empire breathed a sigh of relief. A knife on the head. Who is not afraid? Once the knife was broken, everyone felt much relieved. However, hundreds of years have passed, and the Chen family has apparently gradually regained some of its former strength and begun to rebuild the Xuanjia army. The hundreds of cavalry Xuanjia army that were revealed alone were enough to rival the tens of thousands of ferocious beasts and foreign troops if they actually took action. At the critical moment, it is like a sharp blade, enough to stab each family. At the same time, what happened in the northern suburbs of the capital was also known to the upper echelons of the empire in an extremely secretive way. When many big shots learned that Wu Qiheo had taken action against Chen Beiyuan, their first reaction was that the Wu family was crazy. The second reaction was that the Wu family was finished. The third reaction is, what did the Jiang family think? The capital of the empire, Beiqing district. The Wu family was only the lowest level family in the Donghua Empire and was still in decline. Only one ancestor, the quasi-emperor, was holding on to the scene. Belonging is the existence of sunset. However, even so, no one would underestimate the Wu family easily. After all, the Wu family is a die-hard supporter of the royal Jiang family and a member of the imperial power party. With such a relationship, even some aristocratic families that are much more powerful than the Wu family will give him a little favor. However, this kind of thin noodles is obviously not enough in front of the Donghua Chen family. In front of the Donghua Chen family, the Wu family is just a bigger upstart at best. A family that is not even qualified to bear the national surname Donghua is at best an ant with a greater influence in a certain field. Of course, no matter how weak the Wu family is among the aristocratic families, they still have some allies. After being notified by some allies, the Wu family soon learned of what happened in the northern suburbs of the capital. In an instant, the entire Wu family was in an uproar. Second ancestor is confused. How dare he take action against young Master Chun? Now the Wu family is in trouble. It's okay if this kind of thing is not brought to the surface. Once it is brought to the surface, our Wu family will definitely face a disaster. How can the Donghua Chen family be easy to get along with? It is said that even the Xuanjia army, which has not appeared for many years, has been dispatched. Now it is completely in trouble. When the entire Wu family's top brass heard about this, their faces looked as if they were mournful. They no longer had the calmness of the past, and their eyes were full of fear. Damn it! Even the current head of the Wu family, Wu Qilong, looked ugly at the moment, as if his father was dead. Oh no, it should be even uglier than a dead father. Because Wu Qiheo, the second ancestor of the Wu family who died, was his grandfather. Master, please say something. What should we do? Otherwise, You are the backbone of the family, so you must make a decision as soon as possible. Facing the continuous urging and questioning from the surrounding elders and senior officials of the Wu family, Wu Qilong's face became increasingly ugly, and he suddenly cursed angrily, "Shut up! Don't you see that I'm still thinking about it? If you have a way, then you can solve it." As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell into deathly silence. Obviously, no one wants to carry this fatal thing. At this moment, a violent vibration like thousands of troops approached quickly from the distance. The Yiwu family disciples were so panicked that they barged in without even knocking on the door. "Master, what's wrong?" An army came from outside and surrounded the Wu family. Swish! Wu Qilong and other senior Wu family officials turned pale, and their minds were buzzing. How long has it been since the Chen family came to visit? They haven't figured out a solution yet. At this moment, a cold snort suddenly appeared, shaking everyone's minds like thunder. A bunch of trash. An old man wearing a white tang suit, with spots on his face, an ugly face, and sharp eyes appeared in front of everyone, looking at the children of the Wu family in front of them with cold eyes. "Ancestor! Ancestor! Ancestor!" Seeing the old man's appearance, Wu Qilong and other senior officials of the Wu family suddenly had a look of joy on their faces, as if they had seen the Dinghai divine needle, and they spoke excitedly. Because the ugly old man in front of him was the current Optimus pillar of the Wu family. Ancestor of the Wu family, Wu Qihua. He is also the only powerful quasi-emperor. Why are you panicking? Our Wu family is a powerful family that has been passed down for hundreds of years. A little storm can't destroy the Wu family. My Wu family is responsible for this matter, but Wu Keheo has died in the hands of that junior Chen Beiyuan. Even if the Donghua Chen family is still angry, it will be a lot less angry. Is it possible that this can destroy my Wu family? How can it be so simple for our Wu family to have been established in Donghua for hundreds of years? The ancestor of the Wu family snorted coldly, with a cold expression on his face, as if he didn't care about the death of his second brother Wu Keheo. "Ancestor, I want to see what the Chen family wants to do." Chapter 214, Part 2. If the person dies, the debt will be wiped out. Wu Keheo is dead. Is it possible that the Chen family can still be unreasonable? The Chen family really thinks they can dominate the Donghua Empire? The ancestor of the Wu family looked domineering, as if he had some special confidence. Chapter 215, Part 1. Ancestor wants to see what the Chen family is going to do? He openly led an army to surround my Wu family. Do you really think that the Donghua Empire belongs to his Chen family? The ancestor of the Wu family snorted coldly and walked directly outside without even looking at the trash behind him. The ancestor is mighty. Although I don't know where my ancestor got his confidence, but Wu Qilong and other senior officials of the Wu family were also infected by it at this moment, and most of the worry and fear on their faces were reduced, and they quickly followed him. When the ancestor of the Wu family led all the top officials of the Wu family out, they were greeted by countless panicked disciples of the Wu family, and their faces suddenly became very ugly. Damn it, the Wu family hasn't. The Yiwu family was so old-fashioned that they wanted to curse, but when he looked out the door, he was stunned in place and trembling all over. At this moment, he instantly understood why the Wu family disciples were running around like frightened little ones. Not only him, but also the rest of the Wu family's senior officials had white faces at this moment, and their eyes were dull as they looked at the scene in front of them. They saw a huge dark shadow outside Wu's house watching them silently, exuding a creepy and terrifying murderous intent. A cold and piercing killing intent instantly sent chills down one's spine. Those were clearly armored guards armed to the teeth, like moving war machines. However, what frightened the top officials of the Wu family was the equipment on the huge figures in front of them. Evil ghost mask, jet black heavy armor, black iron spear, fine iron heavy bow. These are actually pieces of magic weapons with terrifying power, and it's still standard. What's even more frightening is that almost none of the equipment on the Xuanjia guards in front of them is lower than the 5th grade divine weapons. I saw that a set of magic weapons, specially designed for killing, were being equipped on the tall and powerful Xuanjia guards, with huge backs and waists. The powerful magic weapon that countless people dream of, but is difficult to obtain, is now equipped to an army in a standard way. What is this concept? Hundreds of sets of standard magic weapons, above 5th grade, may not be able to be collected even if the entire Wu family's property is sold. There are very few people in the entire Donghua Empire who can be so generous. Not only that, the war horses under the Xuanjia guards are all ferocious and cruel, dragon-blooded war horses, with the blood of ferocious beasts. The dragon blood war horse has pieces of dragon scales growing on its body to protect its weak points, and it is also specially equipped with exclusive barbed armor. This kind of war horse is ferocious in nature, not afraid of life and death, and dares to fight with dragons and beasts. It only recognizes one master in its life, and its master will die with him. Its value is probably not much less than that of a standard magic weapon. In front of him, the Xuanjia army, that looked like hundreds of riders, had equipment worth more terrifying than an elite army of 100,000 people. Some aristocratic families may not be able to buy everything even if they have spent hundreds of years of savings. This is no longer a question of money, this is a question of family heritage. In addition to the standard magic weapons, there must also be matching warriors who are not afraid of death, corresponding training methods, and the belief and will that would rather die than retreat. There is also a military formation that is enough to bring out the full combat power of the army. Only by meeting stringent requirements, one by one, can we create an army of tigers and wolves that can be called a nightmare. No wonder the Chen family's Xuanjia guards are so brave. They can defeat hundreds of enemies one at a time and become the nightmare of countless alien ferocious beasts. With such an army of tigers and wolves, even the Yulong army that protects the royal family may not be an opponent. It's unbelievable. Just a few hundred cavalry gave me a sense of fear of facing thousands of troops. At its peak, the Qin family had tens of thousands of Xuanjia army. Their strength at that time was simply unimaginable. All the senior members of the Wu family had pale faces. Their faces were as white as snow, and their lips were trembling. They were obviously shocked by the posture in front of them. Even the ancestor of the Wu family, who was extremely domineering and arrogant before, changed his expression at this moment, and his face was as gloomy as water. Because at this moment, he actually felt a creepy sense of threat from the Xuanjia army in front of him. The qi of the Xuanjia army in front of them are always connected with each other, almost condensing into a sharp and peerless magic weapon, enough to tear everything apart. Once it starts, it will be an overwhelming and terrifying offensive. In the military formation, several battle crossbows, made of dragon tendons and tiger bones, equipped with 1,000-year-old black iron arrows, comparable to the top weapons of the 7th grade, were silently aimed at him, the quasi-emperor of the Wu family. Chen Beiyuan, what do you mean? Why are you surrounding my Wu family? I also have some old friends with your old man. In terms of seniority, we can be regarded as elders. The ancestor of the Wu family paused in his gaze at the general headed by the Xuanjia army, then took a step forward and asked coldly. Although his voice was cold, there was no domineering tone in his tone just now. Obviously, seeing that the situation was different, the Wu family ancestor began to want to reason. I have heard about Keheo's matter, but since he is dead, the matter is in the past. Our Wu family is willing to provide some more property as compensation. However, facing the obvious submission of the ancestor of the Wu family, Chen Beiyuan, the second son of the Chen family, ignored him and did not respond at all. He just looked at the tall figure riding on a horse and holding a little girl. Beiyuan, you are the protagonist today. My second uncle will listen to you today. Whatever you want to do, just do it boldly. If something goes wrong, my second uncle will take care of you. Thank you, uncle. Chen Beiyuan patted Anu, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, and said with a smile on his face. Seeing that Chen Beiyuan, a junior, didn't even look at him. The ancestor of the Wu family felt a burst of humiliation and anger in his heart, but he still suppressed it and followed his gaze. You must be Chen Beiyuan, the young master of the Chen family. You really are a hero. If Mr. Wu wants to delay time, then forget it. The reinforcements you want may not come. Chen Beiyuan had a smile on his face and interrupted the Wu family ancestor in a gentle tone. I know what your confidence is. You have a lot of friendship with some elders in the royal family, which is enough to be useful at critical moments. Just now, you asked the Jiang family for help through some channel, hoping to get the royal family to intervene, right? As soon as these words came out, the expression of the ancestor of the Wu family changed drastically, his eyes shrank, and the expression on his face became completely ugly. He never expected that such a secret move and his biggest trump card would be seen through by a junior. Chapter 215, Part 2. Is it possible that there is a mole in the family? What frightened him even more was that since the Chen family knew his trump card in advance, they must have counterattacked. But what Chen Beiyuan said next made him feel like he had fallen into an ice cave. Perhaps you don't know that just when you asked for help from the Jiang family, there happened to be some changes in the millions of imperial troops stationed on the border front. Many soldiers said that it was bitterly cold outside the Great Wall, and they suddenly felt a little homesick. Go back to Beijing and have a look. Of course, there are not many people who want to return to Beijing, only a few 100,000. Chapter 216, Part 1. The bitter cold beyond the wall. The soldiers are homesick, going back to Beijing to see. The numbers are not many, hundreds of thousands. Unless the royal family Zhang is crazy. Only then will hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the border front be allowed to return to Beijing. Originally, the Qin family's hundreds of cavalry, Xuanjia army, were already embarrassing enough. Now, hundreds of thousands of well-equipped tigers and wolves who have been fighting ferocious beasts and alien races for many years are coming back to Beijing? That's okay. What if these border soldiers are dazzled by the prosperity of the imperial capital and refuse to leave after returning? What if these soldiers suddenly feel that the weather is cold and want to put a yellow coat on their marshal? Without the intervention of top combat forces, hundreds of thousands of troops could G attack the imperial palace. If the top combat power is held back, as long as hundreds of thousands of elite troops form a military formation, they may be able to push all the way, pile up lives, and forcefully fight their way out. In all the dynasties, which emperor dared to easily let hundreds of thousands of troops into Beijing that he could not directly control? I'm afraid there are too many people hanging in Weibo tree, so I want to add one more. At this moment, the ancestor of the Wu family felt his head was roaring, his energy and blood surged, and he almost suffered a cerebral hemorrhage due to anger on the spot. The Donghua Chen family has made it clear that they are forcing the royal family Zhang family to make a choice. As a member of the royal power party, the Wu family is definitely the most loyal supporter of the royal family. The eldest brother of the royal family Jiang must protect his younger brother at critical moments. If you don't protect your loyal brother, people's hearts will easily break up. But the Donghua Chen family is obviously not someone to be bullied. The road was blocked as soon as he took action. Want to protect the Wu family? No problem. Then I will withdraw my troops and return to Beijing. I don't care whether you answer or not. You will be outside, and your orders will not be accepted. If it doesn't work, just disband the army and let them return to Beijing to cultivate the land and grow sweet potatoes. The Donghua Chen family must be really determined to do this. At that time, the Zhang family, as the royal family, will be directly under the greatest threat. If hundreds of thousands of troops really return to Beijing, I'm afraid that many people will not be able to sleep at night and will not even want to exercise. At this time, the problem comes. Is this younger brother from the Wu family important? Or is it more important for you to be the big brother? Haha, by this time, things are no longer that simple. This is a battle between imperial power and imperial military power. It is a head-on game between the imperial royal family and the top aristocratic families. If you dare to interfere, I will lift the table and no one will be able to play. At this moment, even some big shots who have been paying attention here are amazed by the Chen family's domineering power. Among the top aristocratic families, not many dare to play like this. That is to say, the Chen family controls most of the empire's military power and has a strong fist, so they dare to confront the royal family head-on. Does the matter have to reach this stage? Do the Chen family really want to kill everyone? The ancestor of the Wu family no longer had the confidence that he had just achieved on his face. His old face covered with spots trembled slightly, and his eyes were fixed on Chen Beiyuan in front of him. As an old man, he knew very well that the royal Zhang family would have abandoned him long ago. Otherwise, a heavyweight should have come to mediate. Nowadays, it is obviously the default. I thought that the Wu family had done so many dirty things for the emperor. Now, he is not even willing to save the Wu family. Sure enough, for that person, only himself is the most important, and the rest can be discarded. Our Wu family is also one of the aristocratic families in the Donghua Empire. If we take action easily, I'm afraid it will cause criticism. What explanation are you going to give to the outside world? The Wu family rebelled against the country, colluded with foreign races, and attacked and killed the high-ranking officials of the empire and the 90 tribes. How does Mr. Wu feel about this explanation? Chen Beiyuan said calmly. As the future leader of the imperial military, Chen Beiyuan's status is much greater than that of many big shots. This accusation is not too excessive. As for the Wu family, are they convinced? Then it's none of his business. From the moment Wu Qiheo took action against him, the fate of the Wu family was doomed. If he didn't use thunderous means, he would kill the Wu family completely and frighten those monsters. I am afraid that countless Wu Qiheo will appear in the future and attack him without any scruples. Today, he will use the most ruthless means to tell everyone that whoever dares to attack him must be prepared to have his whole family killed. Today, Wu family. He's done. Moreover, Chen Beiyuan didn't feel that he would be grateful if he really let go of the Wu family. Having practiced the prison-suppressing demonic scripture, he sensed a hint of murderous intention and hatred towards him from the extremely hidden emotions of the ancestor of the Wu family. The Yai Kani residual soul in the body also sent out an early warning roar. Wu Qiheo is the second brother of the ancestor of the Wu family, and the centuries-old brotherly relationship between the two is definitely not shallow. If given the chance, the ancestor of the Wu family would definitely attack him without hesitation. In this case, it is better to remove the hidden dangers in advance. Okay, you have such a vicious heart at such a young age. You will definitely be a huge disaster in the future. I have lived for hundreds of years and have never seen any battles. I really think I am afraid of you. If you want to destroy my Wu family, your Chen family will also have to pay the price. When the ancestor of the Wu family heard that Chen Beiyuan was accused of being a Nini tribe, his expression suddenly became extremely ferocious. This clearly shows that there is no way for him to survive. So what else does he have to worry about? I'll call you Mr. Wu if I give you the face, but if I don't, you'll just be an old dog. A dog raised by the Jiang family dared to bite someone from my Chen family. It would be easy to kill all 9 of your tribes. That means Beiyuan is kind-hearted and won't care too much about you, an old dog. If it were me, I would have to kill all 10 of your tribes. Chen Beiyuan, who was riding on a tall war horse, had a hoarse voice and a cold tone, and spoke with undisguised murderous intent. Is my nephew something you, an old dog, can scold? What a shameless piece of shit. Second uncle, calm down. There is no need to argue with a dying old dog. Let my nephew take care of this old dog. Chen Beiyuan suddenly smiled. He patted the back of Anu, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, pulled out the red and swollen index finger of his right hand that had been sucked by a greedy little guy, and immediately took the little guy who smashed his mouth into the depths of his soul. Chapter 216, Part 2. What happens next is that it will be a little inconvenient to hold this little guy. Chen Beiyuan took a step forward and looked at the ancestor of the Wu family in front of him with a kind smile. He stretched out his hands as white as jade. It's been so long and your reinforcements haven't arrived. It seems that the royal family has decided to abandon the Wu family. However, I am a kind person, Mr. Wu. Considering that the Wu family has served the empire, I will give you a chance. If you haven't been beaten to death by me within a stick of incense, this matter will be over. Chapter 217, Part 1. Kill a quasi-emperor in 1 stick of incense. What did he just say? He just said he would beat the ancestor of the Wu family to death with a stick of incense? War King fights quasi-emperor? Everyone present looked shocked, staring blankly at Chen Beiyuan, who stretched out his hands with a smile on his face, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Immediately, he looked at the ancestor of the Wu family, who looked ashen. It's almost impossible to tell who is the War King and who is the quasi-emperor. The powerful quasi-emperor is also the king and ancestor among the imperial families. When the 8th grade emperor doesn't appear, the quasi-emperor is the strongest fighting force. Even among the top forces, quasi-emperor is strong enough to enter the highest decision-making level. Nowadays, a peak 6th grade war king actually wants to cross a big realm and a small realm, and also beats a quasi-emperor to death within the time of a stick of incense. This is simply a fantasy and an idiot's dream. You know, the ancestor of the Wu family is a powerful quasi-emperor who has lived for more than 300 years. After hundreds of years of hard training, his strength is one of the best among the powerful quasi-emperors. Even though his strength has been weakened due to old age and frailty, it is still not too bad. Even the tall and powerful Chen Beiyuan was shocked by his nephew's words, and a hint of astonishment flashed through his cold eyes. If he hadn't been very clear about his nephew's temperament, and wouldn't have taken the target lightly, he might have thought that he had heard wrongly. However, facing the disbelieving and suspicious eyes around him, Chen Beiyuan was very calm. He even took out a stick of incense, lit it, and stuck it on the ground. Okay, what an arrogant young man. Does he really think he is invincible after killing a few war emperors? The furious voice of the ancestor of the Wu family suddenly resounded. He had just been scolded as an old dog by Chen Beiyuan, and the uncle and nephew, and his face had turned the color of pig liver and turned ashen. As the patriarch of a noble family and a powerful quasi-emperor, He had not been insulted like this in countless years. And still by 2 juniors? Now, Chen Beiyuan has given up his lies and wants to kill him within a stick of incense. This simply means that he, an old senior, is not taken seriously. But at this moment, while he was angry, there was never a trace of joy in his heart. Whoever is the first among the younger generation is still too young after all. He actually promised himself that as long as 1 stick of incense passes by, everything will be over. Ha ha ha. Being so arrogant at a young age will definitely lead to death in the future. Boom. I saw that terrifying imperial power suddenly erupted from his body, tearing apart the void and sweeping across the world. The violent aura tore a huge crack out of the white clouds in the sky. A terrifying field as thick as the deep sea erupted instantly, radiating in all directions. Anyone who was close to the scene felt a dullness in their chests, dizziness, and weakness in their limbs. Uncontrollable fear inevitably emerged deep in their hearts. In this case, the strength of everyone present was forcibly suppressed, making it difficult to exert their usual full strength, even half of it. Although the powerful quasi-emperor has not yet broken through the 8th grade, he has also come into contact with the power of the domain. Once he uses it, he can easily suppress the opponent's body and soul, causing him to lose most of his combat power. This is the terror of the power of the domain and the terror of the powerful quasi-emperor. Today, I will let you know what the sky and the earth are. So much nonsense. Before the ancestor of the Wu family finished shouting, he suddenly heard a very close voice appearing behind him. The ancestor of the Wu family shrank his pupils and looked shocked. Looking at the empty space in front of him, he immediately felt a chill rising from his spine. This is impossible. The other party is anything that hides from his perception. Boom! A scarlet dragon claw suddenly appeared from behind and grabbed the back of his bare head, as if grabbing an old dog, and slammed it to the ground. A shrill and painful howl sounded. The ancestor of the Wu family was hit so suddenly that he was instantly dizzy and almost lost his ability to carry it. No matter how the domain power of the ancestor of the Wu family surged crazily, but when it affected Chen Beiyuan, it was directly swallowed up by the abyss deep in his soul. The quasi-emperor's always most powerful field power has no effect at all on Chen Beiyuan. Boom, boom, boom. Chen Beiyuan's tall figure, his right arm transformed into a thick and powerful scarlet dragon claw, grabbing the head in his hand and smashing it to the ground like a pile driver. In front of the terrifying huge force, deep pits of different sizes suddenly appeared on the ground. The mighty quasi-emperor was actually grabbed by a junior and had his head blasted with a hammer. This scene is truly appalling. But everything happened so fast that even the ancestor of the Wu family didn't react when it was almost here. When he wanted to resist, he found that Chen Beiyuan's power was too terrifying. His physical strength was completely suppressed. At this moment, he felt as if he was caught close by a terrifying giant dragon. What's even more frightening is that Chen Beiyuan seems to be immune to the power of his domain, showing no signs of diminishing in strength. Seeing Chen Beiyuan transformed into a humanoid beast, easily pressing the blaster of the ancestor of the Wu family, Wu Qilong and other senior Wu family officials were stunned for a moment. Their faces turned pale. The faces of the other people around him also changed dramatically, as if they had seen a ghost. OMG! Is this even a human being? Boom! Suddenly, Chen Beiyuan, who was grabbing the head of the ancestor of the Wu family and smashing it, suddenly felt that the skull in his hand was suddenly shriveled and sunken, and in an instant, it turned into a piece of shriveled human skin. Divine ability, human skin stand, swish. A stream of light quietly appeared in the sky, and instantly transformed into the appearance of the ancestor of the Wu family. The old face covered with spots was now covered with bloody mouths, and small pieces of gravel were deeply embedded in the gloomy and resentful old face. Junior, you are looking for death. Without warning, a junior was tricked. This time, his old face was really humiliated. No matter whether the battle is won or lost at this moment, he will become the laughing stock of outsiders. At this moment, he has begun to murder. Boom. A terrifying spiritual pressure suddenly erupted from the body of the ancestor of the Wu family, instantly forming a spirit chi storm. The power of the domain of the powerful quasi-emperor can not only weaken the opponent, but also strengthen himself. I saw that a domain as thick as the deep sea suddenly blessed the ancestor of the Wu family. Chapter 217, Part 2. Under the influence of the power of the domain, These countless sword blades formed by the wind spirit chi began to sweep wildly, merged instantly, and their power surged several times, forming a terrifying sword energy of tens of feet, exuding an icy cold light, heading towards cut-off Chen Beiyuan below. Divine Ability, Blade Storm. Chapter 218, Part 1. The ancestor of the Wu family was obviously really angry, and when he used the powerful divine ability, he didn't care at all about the children of the Wu family below. The terrifying sword energy, which was nearly tens of feet long, was not only aimed at Chen Beiyuan, but it also enveloped almost half of the Wu family. This is obviously an indiscriminate attack. No, ancestor is crazy. Master of the family. Quickly activate the family formation. Wu Qilong and other senior officials of the Wu family and their disciples saw the overwhelming and terrifying sword energy coming. In an instant, 3 souls lost their 7 souls, and they did not go crazy with fear on the spot. But Chen Beiyuan, who was standing in the center of the bumpy human face, was holding a piece of human skin in his hand. He seemed to have not yet reacted, but slowly raised his head. Boom! The terrifying sword energy instantly swallowed it up, tearing the earth apart, and instantly cut a huge, undulating sword mark on the ground, causing violent shocks. Endless dust and smoke began to spread everywhere. The Wu family's formation had just started, forming a huge black toad. It wanted to protect the family's ancestral land, but half of its head was cut off by the aftermath of the terrifying sword energy of its ancestor. Boom! Half of the Wu family's buildings were instantly reduced to ashes and swallowed up by terrifying sword marks. Puff! Wu Qilong and many other Wu family 7th-grade war emperors spurted out blood in an instant. Their faces were like gold paper, and they almost fell to the ground without taking a breath. Just the slight aftermath of the quasi-emperor offensive was obviously not something that several war emperors could bear. If they hadn't activated the family formation in time to help carry it off, many people would have died first. Many of the Wu family disciples behind him were so frightened by the scene in front of them that they knelt on the ground and peed directly. Their eyes were dull, as if they were watching a natural disaster coming. The power of quasi-emperor can be imagined. This move by the ancestor of the Wu family was truly unexpected and cruel. In order to deal with Chen Beiyuan, the entire Wu family was almost taken away in one wave. Many of the powerful men present who were peeping in secret also frowned at this moment, obviously shocked by the viciousness of the ancestor of the Wu family. Ha 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 ha. However, at this moment, the ancestor of the Wu family showed no regrets at all. Instead, he laughed coldly and maniacally. When Chen Beiyuan suddenly pressed him to the ground and rubbed him with the explosive hammer, it completely wiped away his contempt and even gave him a sense of fear. Today, if he didn't go all out, he might capsize in the gutter and die at the hands of a young man. For an old monster who has lived for more than 300 years, compared with his own life, the lives of some younger members of the family are obviously insignificant. Between life and death, some necessary sacrifices must be made. Ha ha ha, my famous stunt, Blade Storm, was able to break through the defensive dragon race at the same level back then. No matter how strong your physical body is, I can't. Tread, tread, tread. A clear sound of footsteps suddenly interrupted the Wu family ancestors' loud laughter. In the huge smoke below, a figure with a blood dragon mark on his eyebrows slowly walked out. His breath was thick, his clothes were slightly tattered, and there seemed to be a slight blood mark on his chest. However, this blood stain healed automatically in an instant and dissipated without a trace. His eyes were as deep as the eternal night, and his handsome and evil face showed a kind smile towards the ancestor of the Wu family. It hurt a lot just now. If it were before, Chen Beiyuan might not be as calm as he is now when facing the terrifying sword energy of the ancestor of the Wu family. But since his qualifications and understanding have been upgraded to saint rank, and after Transcendent became a saint, his control over his own body has reached a terrifying level. Coupled with the terrifying defensive power brought by Blood Dragon transformation, the ancestor of the Wu family's so-called famous stunt barely caused some scars on him. Impossible! The ancestor of the Wu family shrank his pupils, and his expression changed drastically. He looked at the almost unharmed Chen Beiyuan below, as if he was looking at a monster. Such a terrifying body is probably even scarier than the pure-blooded dragon race. Is this even a human being? What kind of monster is this? However, Chen Beiyuan's next move scared him so much that his hair stood on end. His pupils trembled, and he almost screamed. Old guy, Have you ever been killed by your own sword energy? Chen Beiyuan said meaningfully. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a thundering roar, and the terrifying evil energy and bloody light swept the world instantly. Roar. A terrifying beast that looked like a jackal, with a sword in its mouth, scarlet hair, long horns that curved close to its back, and ferocious eyes suddenly appeared behind Chen Beiyuan, letting out a thundering roar. Divine ability of destiny, any anger will be repaid. The wrath of Jijan, 5 times your money back. Cut. A cold voice resounded. 5 lines of terrifying sword energy, tens of feet long, were suddenly and silently generated. In the eyes of countless pairs of astonished eyes, they merged together in an instant, turning into 100-foot sword energy, and returned towards the ancestor of the Wu family with a terrifying pressure that was cold and bone-corrosive. Go back. Boom. This 100-foot sword energy was several times faster than the terrifying sword energy just now. The terrifying coercion it contains has almost reached the limit of the quasi-emperor realm. Cut it away with one sword, tearing the void apart. No. Seeing that his famous skills were returned in this strange way, and it was also superimposed by some kind of weird divine ability, which forcibly increased the power several times. The ancestor of the Wu family suddenly let out a scream, and instantly felt a fatal threat. He never dreamed that one day he would be doubly attacked by his divine ability. The life-saving weapons on his body suddenly emerged with rays of light, trying to protect themselves. Boom! The terrifying explosion instantly resounded in the sky and swept across all directions. Its terrifying power instantly attracted the attention of countless powerful people throughout the capital of the empire. Even some old monsters were alarmed by the terrifying power of this sword. Is this the legendary Yazan? Such a weird divine ability can return all offensive attacks and double the returns, which is simply appalling. The power of this sword has reached the limit of Quasi-Emperor. Normal Quasi-Emperor is at risk of falling. The boy from the Chen family should not be underestimated. He can actually rival the Quasi-Emperor as a war king and overpower the ancestor of the Wu family. The ancestor of the Wu family is old, his lifespan is about to be exhausted, and his strength is not as good as before. He may not be able to withstand this move. There is Chen Shanhe in the front and Chen Beiyuan in the back. The fate of the Chen family is really terrifying. Donghua Academy, a high-rise building. Yaju. Chapter 218, Part 2. Zhang Bai looked at the battle in the distance with faint eyes. All attention is now attracted by the Yai soul behind Chen Beiyuan. For a long time, he turned around and stared at the towering dark beast behind him on the 8th floor of the Black Tower. The Prince of the Empire and the Principal of Donghua Academy, who had always been known for his majesty and solemnity, was clenching his fists tightly at this moment, as if he was suppressing something. I have known you for hundreds of years, but I haven't even gotten it from Mao yet. Every time we meet, I get a sword first. You gave it to an outsider you only met once. Others can do it, but he can't, right? Soul Beast Tower, 8th floor. Deep in the valley, a huge beast with scarlet hair seemed to sense something. It slowly opened its erect beast eyes, and a satisfied smile appeared on its ferocious face. Good boy. Chapter 219, Part 1. Boom. Accompanied by the 100-foot sword Qi that was comparable to the strongest attack of a quasi-emperor peak powerhouse, it dissipated in the sky. Amid countless astonished eyes, the original figure of the Wu family ancestor disappeared without a trace. Instead, there was a black and ugly toad covered with countless thick lumps, with sword marks all over its body, almost half of its flesh cut off, 3 legs broken, oozing with green pus, and almost crippled. This was the Wu family ancestor's own high-level fighting spirit, Voodoo Toad. And on the top of the Voodoo Toad, there was an old face covered with spots, hideous and twisted, as if it was enduring endless pain. It was the Wu family ancestor. In order to resist Chen Beiyuan's terrifying sword that just illuminated the world, the Wu family ancestor not only used all his life-saving magic weapons, he even summoned his high-level fighting spirit, Voodoo Toad, and used the secret method of the Wu family ancestor to briefly merge with his own fighting spirit, forcibly using the power of the fighting spirit to resist the fatal blow. In the end, with his high-level fighting spirit, Voodoo Toad, almost broken and his soul severely damaged, the Wu family ancestor finally withstood the terrifying sword. However, at this moment, he was completely useless. He is not dead even in this state. What a terrible monster. Chen Beiyuan's figure appeared in the sky, looking at the old face full of pain on the huge toad in front of him with a faint gaze, and couldn't help showing an amazed expression. As expected of an old monster who has lived for more than 300 years, he can still survive in this situation. Just now, he almost overloaded his innate divine ability, revenge, and forcibly increased it to 5 times the return, before he condensed a terrifying sword comparable to the strongest attack of the peak of Quasi-Emperor, enough to split mountains and seas. In this situation, if an ordinary Quasi-Emperor was killed, he would probably die on the spot. As a result, the Wu family ancestor was able to resist, and he really deserved to be called a monster. Facing Chen Beiyuan's exclamation, many old monsters who were paying close attention to the battle situation at the moment couldn't help but twitch their mouths and almost cursed. The Wu family ancestor is a monster. Then what are you? Damn. From beginning to end, you made a move twice. The first time, you pressed the Wu family ancestor to the ground and rubbed him. The second time, you took away most of the life of the Wu family ancestor. Who is the monster? Above the voodoo toad, the extremely painful old face of the Wu family ancestor was staring at Chen Beiyuan in front of him with great resentment, as if he wanted to tear him into pieces. Chen Beiyuan. The Wu family ancestor roared crazily in his heart, full of endless resentment and madness. The Wu family's secret method that merged with his own fighting spirit was not without side effects. At this moment, he had completely merged with the voodoo toad and could never change back. At this moment, he was no longer the respected ancestor of the Wu family, but an ugly, disgusting, and nearly disabled voodoo toad. As long as the voodoo toad died, he would also fall. And with the fighting spirit almost broken, the voodoo toad would probably collapse soon. He dead. I won't accept it. I won't accept it. I should have had several decades of lifespan, but now it was destroyed by a sword. Hundreds of years of cultivation were destroyed by a young man, destroyed in an instant. The imperial family is the most ruthless. The Wu family has done so much for the royal family over the years, but in the end, they were abandoned. That person was unwilling to say a word for the Wu family from beginning to end. If the Jiang family was willing to come forward to negotiate with the Chen family, the Wu family would not end up like this. Okay, since you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. Chen Beiyuan, I want you to die. I want you to die. As soon as you die, the Jiang family will be completely incapacitated. It will be inexplicable. My ancestor of the Wu family was also one of the elders of the Donghua Empire back then, a powerful 8th grade war emperor. How could I not leave behind a legacy? That evil thing is enough to kill you. There is great fear between life and death, and even the powerful quasi-emperor cannot be exempted from it. Seeing that he was going to die, the ancestor of the Wu family also completely fell into madness and began to give up. Young Master Qin mainly died in the Wu family. Can the Jiang family, the royal family behind the Wu family, really survive on their own? In the body of the voodoo toad, an evil and strange aura filled with malice and madness began to spread quietly. A certain evil object, hidden deep in the soul of the ancestor of the Wu family, began to revive little by little. It was so secretive that even the old monsters who were paying attention were not aware of it. In order to delay time, the ancestor of the Wu family suppressed the resentment in his heart and began to beg for mercy, with an expression of flattery and begging for life. Young Master Beiyuan, let the old slave go. Let the old slave go. The old slave is willing to make an oath to serve as a slave. The entire Wu family will become a vassal of the Chen family and donate hundreds of years of savings. Chen Beiyuan looked calmly at the ugly face of the ancestor of the Wu family that was full of flattery on the toad's back that was covered with knots, and there was no wave in his heart. Just when he was about to use the Dian soul method to extract his soul and devour it, suddenly, a sudden and creepy feeling surged into my heart, with a strange cold and slippery feeling, as if I was being stared at by something. Roar. Yaijin's soul instantly let out a warning roar, feeling a huge threat. Nowadays, the only people who can pose a huge threat to me are the 8th grade war emperor or the 8th grade divine weapon. This old guy has an 8th grade magic weapon inside his body? Or is it something comparable to an 8th grade magic weapon? So brave. Chen Beiyuan's pupil shrank, and he looked sharply at the ancestor of the Wu family who was begging for mercy with a flattery look on his face, and his eyes suddenly burst into a cold light. The prison-suppressing demonic qi and prison-suppressing demonic thought in his body turned into surging energy, rushing towards the center of his eyebrows. Boom! A group of invisible, colorless, and odorless chaotic gas hidden in the mud pill palace suddenly burst out with terrifying pressure, condensed into an invisible thorn, and disappeared. 8th grade divine weapon. God-killing thorn. Swish. Chen Beiyuan didn't hesitate at all and directly used the 8th grade magic weapon obtained from the Void Temple. Young Master Beiyuan, this old slave will only be you in the future. The ancestor of the Wu family suddenly became more and more excited when he saw the evil things gradually forming in his body, but he still maintained a flattering expression on his face. List. North. Deep. Today, you will die. Boom. The 8th grade divine weapon, the God-killing thorn, instantly pierced into the depths of his soul, wiping out all his consciousness with force and domineering force. And he killed without reservation towards a certain evil object. Chapter 219, Part 2. That had just been condensed. Is that a mutilated mask? Chong. Accompanied by a strange sound of gold and iron colliding, the ancestor of the Wu family fell. The evil aura that had just filled the mutilated mask felt like it was hit hard in an instant. The evil hidden inside let out an unwilling and painful roar, and was forcibly suppressed by the God-killing thorn. Chapter 220, Part 1. I'm afraid that the ancestor of the Wu family never thought that he would die so aggrieved. Even before he could react, his soul consciousness was killed. Even the evil thing he relied on was forcibly suppressed before it could play its role. Swish. Seeing that the terrifying will inside the incomplete mask was forcibly suppressed and unable to come out, God-killing thorn rolled it up and escaped directly into the void, disappearing without a trace in an instant. This thing can resist the attack of God-killing thorn. Its origin is definitely not small. How could Chen Beiyuan let it go? Although God-killing thorn is an 8th grade magic weapon that is invisible, colorless, and tasteless. Its body is a ball of air of nothingness. It is very secretive and directly attacks the soul. It is the most precious treasure of the Yin people. Even when it was activated, the peeping old monsters didn't notice it at all. But when the God-killing thorn collided head-on with the incomplete mask, just now, making subtle fluctuations and sounds, it still attracted the attention of these old guys. What is that sound? It seems like some kind of magic weapon collision. Something's wrong. There seems to be something in the ancestor of the Wu family. This old immortal has been alive for hundreds of years. I'm afraid he is hiding some trump card. Could it be some powerful magic weapon? The Wu family was also one of the elders of the empire back then, and their ancestors were also powerful 8th grade war emperors. Is there a legacy that he may have passed down? These old monsters, spying in the dark, are not easy to fool. To say that they may not be sensitive to other things, but as long as actual interests are involved, one is more aggressive than the other, and his eyes are wider than anyone else's. In an instant, all eyes were focused on Chen Beiyuan. Swish. With the return of God-killing thorn, something suddenly appeared on Chen Beiyuan's right hand, and it disappeared out of thin air. Chen Beiyuan's movements were so fast that even those old monsters who had reacted could not see clearly what he had taken, and almost cursed his mother out of anger. For them, if they are not able to profit from the benefits, they will suffer a big loss. A bunch of greedy old guys. Chen Beiyuan's face remained as usual, with the corners of his mouth raised slightly. He ignored the coveting gazes of those who were almost angry and scolded his mother, and looked straight at the voodoo toad in front of him. Goo. Along with the death of the soul of the ancestor of the Wu family, the high-level fighting spirit, voodoo toad, as a companion creature, also let out a painful howl, and the body as thick as a mountain began to become illusory, melting little by little. But how could Chen Beiyuan watch helplessly? The voodoo toad in front of me is the high-level fighting spirit of the quasi-emperor, the ancestor of the Wu family, and it has also absorbed the broken soul. Naturally, its value can be imagined. Immediately activate the Dian Soul method. The eyes bloom with terrifying magic light and strike directly at the behemoth in front of you, like a giant python swallowing an elephant, tearing it into pieces and decomposing it in an instant, and forcefully swallowing it into the depths of the soul. Seeing something delicious coming in, Abyss, which had been in a state of silence, slowly began to wake up and started eating slowly. Boom. Incomparably pure soul energy began to gush out from the Abyss crack, instantly filling the soul space, making him feel like he was full, My own mental strength and soul power are also gradually increasing. Fragments of hundreds of years of memories about the ancestors of the Wu family also began to flash through his mind. The soul of a powerful quasi-emperor and hundreds of years of incomplete memories are not so easy to digest. Chen Beiyuan expected that it would take at least some time for him to completely digest it. At this moment, in the soul space, a certain little silly dragon who was sleeping soundly was really enjoying the benefits of first-come, first-served basis. In just one breath, he absorbs the pure soul power and nourishes his own dragon soul. My little body, which was originally a little short, started to grow little by little. Suddenly, the little silly dragon, who was sleeping so soundly, didn't know what he was dreaming about. He turned over, pressed a yuan pillow down, and smashed it with his mouth, with a silly smile on his face, drooling and wet a yuan under him. Pillow, two short legs kicking wildly, galloping, drive, drive, drive. Swish! Chen Beiyuan's eyes suddenly bloomed with divine light, shining like thunder, looking at the peeping eyes around him with a terrifying demonic power that could destroy all things. As his mental power continues to skyrocket, the power on his body becomes more and more terrifying, and the sense of oppression in his eyes becomes more and more frightening. Not good. In an instant, those unscrupulous, peeping glances felt a chilling threat, and they subconsciously avoided their gazes, unwilling to look directly into their sharp edges. At this moment, they finally realized that the young man in front of them was the god of death who slaughtered a quasi-emperor. Ancestor! Ancestor! I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Fake. It's all fake. It's all an illusion. How could the ancestor die? How could he die? Seeing the death of the ancestor of the Wu family, Wu Qilong and other senior officials of the Wu family and the children of the Wu family looked crazy and howled with excitement, full of disbelief. Some people were so frightened that they collapsed on the spot. Ha ha ha, what a good boy, at such a young age. He's even better than your second uncle. Chen Zhishuan's indifferent eyes revealed a hint of relief and excitement. A warm smile appeared on the face behind Shura's mask. This lunatic from the Chen family, who has been hailed as the bloodthirsty Shura by the outside world, has probably not been so happy for a long time. Snapped. The stick of incense stuck on the ground was less than half burned. The burned incense ashes were blown by the wind and fell directly to the ground, breaking into pieces. From the battle to now, the ancestor of the Wu family could only hold up less than half of the incense stick. Then, naturally, the opportunity promised by Chen Beiyuan will not be used. The next moment, Chen Beiyuan's cold and ruthless voice suddenly resounded throughout the entire imperial capital, carrying an undisguised, awe-inspiring murderous intent. The Wu family colluded with foreign tribes, murdered high-level officials of the empire, and betrayed the interests of the empire. All crimes will be forgiven. According to the laws of the empire, the 9 Yi tribes will be punished. Xuanjia army. Where are they? Mysterious. First. Military. Exist. Suddenly, in the eyes of pairs of people who were shocked and frightened, the hundreds of Xuanjia army that surrounded the entire Wu family and rode like giant war beasts were like bloodthirsty beasts that had been dormant for many years. They let out a thunderous roar that resounded throughout the capital. A force of thousands of troops and a domineering power that looked down upon the world suddenly emanated from the figures, forming a terrifying evil aura. Chapter 220, Part 2. Even the clouds and mist in the sky were dispersed by the terrifying evil energy. Chen Beiyuan's cold voice sounded again. For the country. Kill the thieves. Promise. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 221, Part 1. Kill. With the thundering roar resounding, in an instant, hundreds of Xuanjia soldiers formed a Shura battle formation. The evil spirits of all the soldiers were connected together and condensed into 100-foot Shura, hanging high in the sky, looking up to the sky. Howl. Tread. 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 Pairs of cold iron hooves trampled on the blood-stained ground, and the spears and crossbows in their hands kept waving, erupting with terrifying evil energy, easily taking away countless lives. The Xuanjia army blessed by the Shura battle formation is like a bloodthirsty Shura who is not afraid of life and death, has no fear, no pain, and no fear. With every killing, his strength begins to improve a little bit. In the face of absolute combat, the descendants of the Wu family, the elders of the family, the heads of the aristocratic families, and the elders of the family were all vulnerable, reduced to flesh and blood, and easily torn into pieces. An almost crushing massacre was staged directly in front of a pair of peeping eyes. Spare me, spare me. Our Wu family is willing to abandon the darkness and turn to the light, but the Chen family will follow the lead of the horse and follow the lead of the horse. Let me go, let me go. I know there is a hidden treasure house in the Wu family. I am willing to offer this treasure house as a life-saving bargaining chip. You can't be nice. Heaven wants to destroy my Wu family. God wants to destroy my Wu family. Second ancestor, you killed the entire family? The Wu family, once one of the imperial families and the most loyal supporters of the royal family, is now like an ant in front of the millstone of the times, being crushed bit by bit. Pairs of people peeping secretly, the eyes of the coveting forces gradually changed, looking at the scene in front of them with fear and fear. How many years? How many years? In the Donghua Empire, there has been no such thing as confiscation of families and genocide for many years. As a wealthy and aristocratic family, most of them are related to each other and are related to each other. Most of the time, everyone is used to sitting down and having a good chat, maintaining the aristocratic demeanor. Everyone is in a high position. There is no need to be like those mud-legged people who risk their lives at every turn. As the saying goes, keep a line in everything so that we can meet again in the future. If you K me today, aren't you afraid that I'll K you back in the future? Who can always stand at the top? However, now this hidden rule has been forcibly broken. The Qin family of Donghua obviously had no idea of leaving a front line. They started massacring and killing none of the 90 tribes. In the past, there would occasionally be massacres like a ferocious beast annihilating a family to serve as a fig leaf. Nowadays, I don't even have to pretend. Such ruthless methods instantly made all forces feel jealous and fearful. Some of the little thoughts in some people's hearts were instantly wiped out. Sometimes, before grabbing other things, you lose your own life and the lives of your whole family first. If you hit with one punch, don't use hundreds of punches. If I don't punch this punch, I'm afraid I will never have peace. Chen Beiyuan looked at the carnage below with cold eyes, showing no emotion or pity, only absolute coldness and calmness. Is it not just the Wu family who covets the divine treasure on his body? There are a lot more. There are a lot more. It's just that they are waiting and watching. They are all waiting and watching. A good person will be bullied by others, and a good horse will be ridden by others. As long as the Wu family can succeed, then there will be thousands of Wu family coming out and causing trouble for him continuously. Some people really won't be afraid if they don't do something absolutely and don't kill people. If a person is not ruthless, he cannot stand firm. In this world, as long as you have a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of cowardice, you will be regarded as prey. They will test your bottom line little by little and push you into desperate situations and into the abyss. In the final analysis, it's still strength. The reason why Wu Qiheo dares to attack me is simply because he is at the peak of the War Emperor, a level higher than mine, and thinks he has a chance to win. The reason why the Wu family ancestor dares to be arrogant all the time, in addition to the support of the royal family, is his own quasi-emperor cultivation. This time, I showed my ability to kill quasi-emperor, which is enough to scare some people who are ready to take action. If we mobilize the army and annihilate the 9 Wu clans, it will be enough to wake up some people who are not clear-headed. If you want to attack me, you have to be prepared for your whole family to die. Chen Beiyuan slowly returned to the ground. Looking at the scene of corpses strewn in front of him with dark eyes, his face was very calm. This is just the beginning. He was talking about the 9 clan, not just the main lineage below, but also the Wusher branch lines all over the Donghua Empire. Don't say everything, but do it to the end. The Donghua Chen family's armies are spread throughout the empire. There are people from the Chen family in every state and prefecture. I don't know what else to do, but cutting out the roots is my strong point. When everything is done, it's time for the royal family to come out and wash the floor. Empire Club, Beiyuan, those idiots don't dare to go to you. But they want me to go. But how can I fulfill their wishes? Zhang Yunhua stared at the tall and majestic black-clothed figure on the projection screen in front of him, who was in the ancestral land of the Wu family, with hands on his back, and a trace of obsession appeared on his beautiful face. During this period, many uncles and uncles within the royal family came out and wanted her to talk to Chen Beiyuan, so as to save the Wu family as much as possible. In fact, Even her father may have had similar thoughts, but he did not speak out openly. There are some things that men are not comfortable talking about, but women are different. The close relationship between Jiang Yunhua and Chen Beiyuan was also obvious to all. But how could Jiang Yunhua agree? She never makes it difficult for Beiyuan, nor does she want it to be difficult for him. By family. Bai Ruowei stopped the pen in her hand, looked at the imperial announcement written in front of her about the Wu family's treason, and handed it to her brother Bai Yuza, the tool man who stood obediently next to him. Go to your father's study, stamp it with his official seal, and then send it to the Imperial Propaganda Department to speak to your uncle, and then circulate it directly to all provinces, capitals, and cities to announce to the outside world. Some things are better to be settled in advance to prevent some people from spreading rumors and causing trouble. What she hates most is rumors about someone making up her own man. Leng family. Leng Ruobing was lying on the damp sheets, her eyes blurred and her cheeks flushed as she looked at the photos of the man on her phone. Beiyuan, you are back. A remote corner. Chapter 221, Part 2. Lin Xiao silently looked at the completely destroyed Wu family in front of him, and the Xuanjia army that was plundering the Wu family's assets, as if he had once again refreshed his understanding of the Chen family. He looked at the domineering and cold-looking figure in black, with a complex and firm look in his eyes. He then touched the Xian ring in his hand and murmured to himself, "We can't stay here anymore. It's time to change to another place. Master, I will take you to a new place." Donghua Academy. Jingu Yukino looked at the information sent by his subordinates and fell into silence and deep thought. Chapter 222, Part 1. The 18-year-old king of war at his peak can kill the quasi-emperor. His future achievements will be at least the strongest in the human race, and it is very likely that he will even touch the legendary divine realm. The family behind it controls most of the military power of the entire Donghua Empire. It can easily uproot any top power. Even the royal family Jiang family has to avoid its edge. Chen Jun's own value is probably more terrifying than that of the imperial prince, and he is also the best candidate who is most likely to help the Shingon family get out of the puppet situation. In this Void Temple, the Ito family, the Fukada family, the Inoue family, and the Yuno family all suffered heavy losses. The core members who were carefully cultivated all died at the hands of Chen Jun. They will definitely speed up the invasion plan. The Jingu family doesn't have much time left, and I don't have much time either. Jingu Yukino's misty blue cold eyes flashed with a strange complexity, as if she had already made some kind of decision. If you want to make the Jingu family great again, some forced sacrifices must be made. Since Mr. Chun is not coming to me, then I will go to Mr. Chen. With the fall of the Wu family, all its original legacy was naturally taken over one by the Donghua Chen family. This is undoubtedly a huge workload. After all, the wealth and land accumulated by a wealthy family with hundreds of years of history is absolutely astronomical. Naturally, these matters need to be handled by some special people within the Chen family. From beginning to end, the royal family, the Jiang family, as the boss of the empire, never showed up. They were silent and turned a blind eye throughout the whole process. In the eyes of discerning people, this is a victory of the Donghua Chan family over the royal Jiang family, a victory of military power over imperial power. The Chen family of Donghua, which had kept a low profile for hundreds of years, gradually began to show its fangs. Chen family, mansion. Second uncle, this is my nephew's wish, please accept it first. Chen Beiyuan forced a space ring into the hand of his second uncle Chen Zhishuan. This space ring contains 20 Yingsho fruits, 10 marrow-cleansing fruits, and 1,000-year crimson fruit. According to Chen Beiyuan's calculations, with the talent of his second uncle Chen Zhishuan, if he can digest it all and break through Quasi-Emperor, it should be quite possible. Chen Beiyuan still has a lot of family affection for this reclusive and taciturn second uncle Chen Zhishuan. In the original work, the talent of the second uncle Chen Zhishuan is not inferior to that of his eldest brother Chen Zhiqing. However, over the years, he has been willing to become the shadow of his eldest brother Chen Zhoqing, handling the dirty work for the entire Chen family. During his childhood, Chen Beiyuan's fighting skills were personally taught by his second uncle Chen Zhishuan. Even Chen Zhishuan often brought back some alien ferocious beasts to practice with him. Compared with his father Chen Zhoqing, who was often busy with military affairs, his second uncle Chen Zhishuan was the closest relative to him when he was a child. In the original plot, the Chen family encountered a catastrophe, and the second uncle Chen Zhishuan did not hesitate. He used his own life as a guide to condense the Shura war spirit, merged with the Xuanjiao army, and forcibly held back an 8th Grade War emperor for a while, creating an opportunity for Chen Beiyuan, who was the destined villain, to escape. Chen Beiyuan, who was wearing a Shura mask, looked at his eldest nephew in front of him, and then at the space ring in his hand. He did not refuse, but just patted his shoulder and said in a hoarse voice, "Beiyuan, I'll take the stuff. If you have something to do in the future, call your second uncle, and he will calm things down for you." "That's natural," Chen Beiyuan said with a smile. In the original plot, his second uncle was able to lead the Xuanjiao army with the peak cultivation level of a 7th Grade War emperor. He risked his life and blocked an 8th Grade War emperor for a short time. This shows how terrifying it is. If we can break through the quasi-emperor, we may be able to lead the Xuanjiao army, to gather a battle formation and temporarily compete with the ordinary 8th Grade War emperor. This will undoubtedly give the Chen family a secret trump card. However, this is just the beginning. Sutra Pavilion. Lying on the rocking chair, the great elder exuding a rotten aura was lying on it, motionless. If his chest hadn't been breathing for a long time, he might have thought he was dead. The eldest elder of the Chen family has lived for hundreds of years and is now approaching the end of his life. The great elder was very talented when he was young, ranking among the top 10 among the elders of the Chen family. Unfortunately, he went astray. Because he was too obsessed with formation, he wasted his time and fell behind in his cultivation. By the time he suddenly realized it, it was already too late, and there was no possibility of going any further. However, over the past hundreds of years, many of the powerful battle formations of the Chen family were created by this great elder. Even the Chen family's clan-protecting formation in the empire's capital had been modified many times by him, adding various backups. At critical moments, it can withstand the brief attack of the 8th Grade War emperor. If the great elder hadn't been too obsessed with formation at a young age, with his talent, I'm afraid the Chen family would have had another 8th Grade War emperor come out. At this moment, there was a slight sound of footsteps and a knock on the door. "Great elder, Beiyuan came to see you and brought you some gifts." "Gift?" The elder's eyelids trembled, and he opened a crack with great effort, and soon he saw the figure of Chen Beiyuan, and the fragrant fruits like babies piled up on the side like a hill. There were hundreds of ingshou fruit. Swish! The great elder's eyes suddenly widened, and a dazzling light burst out from his cloudy eyes. "Backyard. Father, here are 50 marrow-cleansing fruits." Chen Beiyuan handed 50 marrow-cleansing fruit to the clone of his father Chen Zhiqing. "My father's true form is still in the 3rd War Zone, and he is now at the critical moment of breaking through to the 8th Grade War Emperor. These 50 marrow-cleansing fruits that refine talent, understanding, and strengthen blood can give him a certain degree of success." Long before entering Void Temple, Chen Beiyuan had already made corresponding plans. After excluding what he uses, he has a rough idea of the distribution of the remaining marrow-cleansing fruit and ingshou fruit. As long as it is used, the overall strength of the Chen family can be greatly improved. When the Donghua Chen family gave him help, he naturally wanted to start giving feedback. Anyway, the Void Temple has initially fallen into his hands, and the 2 towering sacred trees are already in his possession. As long as there is enough time in the future, the 2 sacred fruits can be continuously supplied. Why not benefit the family by plucking a hair? After finishing his work, Chen Beiyuan returned to his room, began to count the results of the battle, and took out the incomplete mask. Chapter 222, Part 2. From the body of the ancestor of the Wu family from the system space. Next, it's time to see what this thing is. It is the first time for the author to write a villain article on Tomato and challenge new themes. Sometimes he always revise and think about it for a long time. Chapter 223, Part 1. Only then did Chen Beiyuan have time to carefully observe this evil object obtained from the ancestor of the Wu family. This evil object can make him feel a fatal threat, and it can also block the attack of the 8th grade magic weapon, God-killing thorn, head-on without leaving any traces. Its quality is at least the same as God-killing thorn, the existence of hierarchy. Otherwise, Chen Beiyuan would not have taken it into his pocket. When the thing was taken out of the system space, what came into view was an incomplete, weird, and huge bronze mask. This bronze mask should not be used by the human race. After all, even if it is incomplete, it is still nearly half a meter wide, and a normal human race cannot wear it. The mask is covered with weird lines, and the shape is very weird, like a crying face, with a hint of penetration, but the overall look gives people an inexplicable sense of weight and majesty. Especially when looking directly at the two eye holes of the incomplete mask, you will have a shuddering feeling, as if the bronze mask in your hand is alive. What a weird thing. There seems to be some evil and terrifying will hidden in this mask. Chen Beiyuan's eyes flashed, and he touched the strange lines on the bronze mask. With his strong soul, he could clearly sense that there was an evil and strange will contained in it, staring at him eagerly. In his mind, fragments of memories about the ancestor of the Wu family were extracted and read through bit by bit. Soon, incomplete memories about this evil object emerged in my mind. This object was obtained by the ancestors of the Wu family at a certain ruins. It seems to be related to the ancient god clan. In the dark, there is a strange and evil will hidden in the mask, which seems to be sealed inside. The ancestor of the Wu family back then the fall is also related to this thing. Ancient god. Chen Beiyuan's pupil shrank, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. This is an ancient race that existed in ancient times. They were the most physically powerful descendants of gods in ancient times, and they were also the darlings of the world at that time. It is said that every ancient god is in the god realm. As soon as he is born, comparable to the ninth grade god of war, raise the mountains and fill the sea, chase the stars and the moon, hold the sky with both hands. For them, it is just a piece of cake. Such talent is simply appalling. In ancient times, in the eyes of other myriad races, old gods were almost one of the most terrifying groups that could not be provoked. In fact, they are ranked above dragon race in terms of threat. If their numbers were not scarce and the process of their birth was extremely complicated, they might have become a nightmare in the eyes of the myriad races. However, later on, for unknown reasons, the ancient god clan perished for no reason and disappeared into the long river of history. The evil object obtained by the ancestors of the Wu family at the ruins is actually related to the legendary ancient god. Could it be that there is a corpse of the ancient god hidden in the ruins? A corpse of an ancient god that is most likely divine rank or even saint rank. The value contained in it is probably E. However, the ruins seem to be in the hands of the Jiang family now. Chen Beiyuan's expression suddenly became strange. The Jiang family seems to have a lot of good stuff on hand. The dragon egg in the blood dragon secret realm, the Yai residual soul in the soul beast tower, the suspected ancient god remains in the mysterious ruins. If a normal person can get one of these, they can greatly increase their strength and enhance their family heritage. But the Jiang family always seems to miss it perfectly. This big brother of the Donghua Empire seems to be a bit sightless. Ding, it has been detected that the host is holding a special evil object that does not belong to the original plot, and detection has begun. Detection completed. Mask of the ancient god. Incomplete. This is a special evil thing full of blood. It tears off the skin of the newly born baby of the ancient god, tortures it continuously, and finally uses the method of blood refining to remove the resentment and soul. Sealed on the mask, driven by oneself. Note: this mask contains the evil spirit of an ancient god's cub sealed inside. Full of resentment, he is extremely hostile to all living creatures. Because the mask is broken, most of the restrictions inside are broken, and the evil spirits cannot be restrained. Once used, it is very likely to devour the master. Mask of the ancient god? Made from the skin of an ancient god's cub? Chen Beiyuan paused while stroking the bronze mask and looked at the strange lines on it with a faint look. This thing is actually a piece of dough? There is also an ancient god's soul sealed inside. No wonder he is so evil. If the evil spirit inside is really released, even the 8th grade war emperor will not be able to stop it. However, who dares to use the cubs of ancient gods to make weapons, etc.? Chen Beiyuan suddenly paused at the corner of the bronze mask and discovered an extremely subtle and strange symbol. Infinity. This weird symbol seems a bit familiar. Swish. Chen Beiyuan seemed to have remembered something and took out the ancient dragon-slaying bow from the system space. I saw a similar strange symbol at the end of the ancient dragon-slaying bow. It's those lunatics from the ancient clan again. Chen Beiyuan finally understood why the ancient clan was exterminated back then. You really dare to do anything. He actually went to steal the cubs of the ancient gods to refine evil weapons. That thing is even more powerful than dragon race. The ancestor of the Wu family was able to take out the mask of the ancient god from the ruins, which means that the strong man of the ancient clan has fallen. So, that ruins may not only contain an ancient god's corpse, but may also contain treasures left behind by that ancient clan strongman. So, the value of that ruins is probably no less than Void Temple. When the ancestors of the Wu family got the mask of the ancient god, they didn't publicize it to the outside world, and they didn't mean to tell the Zhang family. It was obvious that they had their own little thoughts, which means that the royal family may not know what's hidden under their noses. With a golden mountain, Chen Beiyuan smoothly put ancient god mask into the system space. Although this thing is evil and uncontrollable, it has the potential to devour its owner. However, he also has ways to deal with it. If used properly, the 8th grade War Emperor will be tricked to death. It just happens to be one of his trump cards. It seems that we have to find a way to find out where the ruins are, and then harvest the royal family's wool. Just when Chen Beiyuan was thinking about how to obtain the corresponding information, suddenly there was a knock on the door and the housekeeper's voice. "Young master, the 6th prince is here. He wants to see you. He said he is here for an appointment to detoxify." "Your Highness 6th? Zhang Yunhua. Okay. I want to drink milk, and my mother is here." Zhang Zhou had no corresponding news channel, but now someone took the initiative to send it to his door. "It seems that I have to use some tricks today. Invite her in." Chapter 223, Part 2. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 224, Part 1. Since learning the wordless medical classics, Chen Beiyuan has only healed 2.5 people. One is in Bu, who solved the soul-eating curse on her, allowing her to regain her memory, regain her cultivation, and accept her as a dog. One was Zhang Yunhua, who helped her detoxify her body and relieve the toxins in her body. He also washed her hands, face, and mouth. And the other half is the little silly dragon Anu, who is regular bone massage every night, checks teeth, weighs regularly, trims dragon horns, measures dragon tails, and customizes nutritious animal milk. If it weren't for these careful care, a certain little silly dragon wouldn't be able to grow and develop so well. Although this thing looks like a human, it is actually a dragon, so she can only count half of it. Chen Beiyuan, a classic of medical science called the Wordless Medical Classics, applied it to women. Now, after the last treatment, female patient number 2, Zhang Yunhua, finally showed up for a re-examination. In order to obtain some useful information, Chen Beiyuan naturally needed to make some necessary sacrifices. Beiyuan, wearing a fiery red dress, she showed off her curvy figure to the fullest. She was so stunning that she looked like a flame queen and walked in slowly. However, after seeing the domineering figure in the room, her face showed a bit of shyness and blush. Her feet suddenly stumbled and she accidentally fell into his arms. "Beiyuan, it seems that the fire poison from last time has not been completely cured, and there are still some residues. In the past few days, my heart has always been beating very fast, and I always feel a little out of breath. If you don't believe me, listen to it. Is it really beating? Very soon." "Don't say it, I understand. Sit down." From a medical perspective, it is obvious that ordinary massage techniques and treatment methods are no longer of much use to patient number 2 Zhang Yunhua. Continuing to use it is just looking at the plum blossoms to quench thirst, and is of little use. Therefore, this time, Chen Beiyuan is prepared to use more effective means to solve this problem. Just when the doctor-patient pair began to communicate and treat, a figure with a cool temperament also happened to appear outside Chen's house. Astonishingly, it was none other than Long Yin, the school beauty Leng Ruobing. After learning that Beiyuan was back, she obviously couldn't hold back and came to the door. Previously, due to strength issues, she was unable to enter the Void Temple, which resulted in her not seeing the Beiyuan people for nearly half a month. "I haven't seen Xiao Beiyuan for half a month. She can't think about food or tea, and she's almost going crazy. Miss Leng." The guard at the door of Chen's house shouted respectfully when he saw the visitor. Due to Chen Beiyuan's previous instructions, Leng Ruobing was able to go to his room freely, and the guard responsible for guarding did not stop him at all, and just let him go. "Beiyuan, here I come." Leng Ruobing couldn't hide a trace of excitement and expectation on his face, and his eyes showed obsession and desire, just like a cold cat about to meet its owner. However, this aloof cat always shows the completely opposite side in front of its owner. However, just as she entered the backyard and was about to approach Beiyuan's room, she was blocked by the housekeeper who suddenly appeared. "Miss Leng, the young master is currently practicing and is at a critical moment. It is not suitable to see guests. Why don't you come back the next day?" Before the housekeeper finished speaking, Her expression suddenly changed slightly, as if she heard something. She quickly moved out of the way, stretched out her hand to guide. Sorry, I made a mistake. Miss Long, please come here. The young master is inside. I still have things to deal with, so I won't disturb you and the young master. Leng Ruobing was stunned for a moment, as if a little stunned. Before she could react, the housekeeper in front of her hunched over and left in a hurry. Snapped. The housekeeper closed the door directly. What happened? Leng Ruobing frowned. Her keen intuition made her realize that something was wrong, but she didn't know what was going on. Is there something wrong with Beiyuan? Or is he busy with something? Her eyes looked towards the compound in front of her, as if all the truth was hidden inside. When she stepped into the courtyard, walked into the familiar room, and walked towards it, she suddenly heard some subtle screams. Her pupils couldn't help but tremble, and her whole body was frozen on the spot. It seems I came at the wrong time. No, you came just in time. Click. The bedroom door suddenly opened. Leng Ruobing was dragged in before she could react. Ding. The host has acquired a special element of fire, and its body has undergone special changes. It is immune to most fire damage, and its own recovery ability has been greatly improved. Ding. The host acquires a special element of the ice system, undergoes special changes in its own physique, becomes immune to most toxins, and gains the ability to affinate with poisonous insects. Ding. The dragon race blood in the host's body is agitated and is immune to the invasion of the poison of illusion. Deep in the soul, a certain little silly dragon, who was holding a yuan's pillow and holding a milk bottle in his mouth, slurping the fragrance and sleeping soundly, did not realize the seriousness of the matter at this moment. Her home was burgled. The next day, Zhang Yunhua, who had been severely cured of his fire poison, looked a little scared and reluctantly walked out of Chen's house. Snapped, snapped, snapped. She slapped her back and straightened her back. It's too much to spend the night outside. I have to go back first and come back when I have the chance. Ruowei, it's such a waste if you don't use it yourself. As a good sister, I will try it for you first. I have to say, your man is pretty good. Zhang Yunhua, who was having endless aftertaste at this moment, did not realize that there was a pair of charming eyes staring at her leaving figure in the dark at this moment. Bai Ruowei looked calmly as she watched Zhang Yunhua, the well-fed, little thieving cat, get into the car and leave in a swaggering manner. She lowered her eyes slightly and stroked the snow-white fox in her arms. Ali, do you think I'm wrong? I've always wanted to wait until the wedding night before giving myself to Beiyuan. For this reason, I can allow Beiyuan to have some tempering before marriage, just as it's about practicing technique. I thought I could hold it in forever, but seeing them playing with my future husband wantonly, it seems that I can't hold it in anymore. Tell me, is there another woman who can withstand such a test? It's like an action movie from Sakura Country. The person you love the most has become a bus, and anyone can take it. Who can a normal person bear this? Bai Ruowei thinks that her situation is already very big, but in the end I couldn't stand it anymore. She decided to lock up the man she loved in advance. Let's change the bus to private use first. If those bastards want to get in the car again, they must ask for her opinion first. The petted snow-white fox shivered in fear, lowered its head, and twitched its ears, looking like it didn't know anything. Chapter 224, Part 2. Perhaps knowing that Ali would not answer, Bai Ruowei took out her mobile phone from the snow-white abyss, dialed the number of the toolman's brother without expression, and said coldly, "Tonight, I don't care what reason you use, whether it's hanging yourself or dying soon, I invite your brother-in-law to come home." Chapter 225, Part 1. Beiyuan was confused when he received a call from his elder sister. He was alive and well, so why did he hang himself for no reason and die soon? Moreover, why is it related to my brother-in-law? His brother-in-law was so kind to him. How could he cheat him? If his brother-in-law hadn't acted righteously last time, his little white might not have been saved. When he thought of this, Beiyuan was filled with pride and righteousness. His blood surged up, and he blurted out, "Sister, I, Xiao Bai, am famous for my loyalty. It is immoral and bad for you to act like this. Even if I die today, I, Beiyuan, will not try to trick my brother-in-law." A familiar voice sounded. Beiyuan's body trembled, and the fear of being dominated by a sinister great demon king since he was a child suddenly appeared in his mind. His legs subconsciously softened and he knelt down. "Sister, actually, that's not what I meant. We are all a family. Your business is not my business. If you open your mouth, your younger brother will go through fire and water without any hesitation. Don't worry, as siblings in your heart, don't you just want your brother-in-law to come to the house? It's all a trivial matter. I have 9 ways, a total of 9. Brother-in-law, it's not that Xiaobai is unloyal. I really can't protect myself. Don't look at my sister who looks like a gentle and caring sister in front of you. But in front of me, she doesn't act like this. My sister is not gentle at all. She hit me. She really hit me. It's still the kind of beating to death. The kind that even my own father can't stop. It's not that brotherhood is incomparable, but little life is actually more cost-effective. When she asks me to do something, I have to kneel down to listen. Brother-in-law, please marry her as soon as possible. I'm really afraid of her. Do it right, or your legs will be broken. When Leng Ruobing's cold voice came, Beiyuan was so frightened that he broke out into a cold sweat. He quickly lowered his head in response, without any of the unruly appearance just now. Yes. Didi. The phone hangs up. Call. Beiyuan, who was kneeling on the ground with weak legs, looked at the hung-up mobile phone, and then he dared to take a long breath. A large amount of cold sweat dripped on the ground, and even his back was wet with sweat. His face showed both the pain of betraying his brother-in-law and the joy of surviving the disaster. The two complex emotions were intertwined, making him suffer in his heart. Brother-in-law, I can't help it. I can only be an obedient and good brother. Which bad woman would really break my legs? You should marry her as soon as possible. I'm really afraid of her. Just when Beiyuan was kneeling on the ground, muttering to himself and thinking about how to fool his brother-in-law to come home, he was unaware that there was an elegant figure behind him holding 7 wolves. What a sin. You actually went to my study to steal the public seal. You even used my name to trick the propaganda department into asking your uncle to issue an official announcement. Just now, the people from the palace came to me to question me. Ask me what the Bai family wants to do. I think you won't fight for 3 days, so go to the house and untie the tiles. Beiyuan looked at the traitor in front of him with a warm and angry expression and fiercely smacked the 7 wolves in his hand. Snapped. Don't hit. It's all my sister who asked me to do it. It's all she asked me to do it. How dare you frame Weir when you are about to die? The entire capital knows about this ridiculous thing. Only a little b***************** d like you can do it. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep you alive today. Chen family. Chen Beiyuan still didn't know that his brother-in-law was taking the blame and being beaten, and that his fiancée was planning to plot against him. At this moment, he had his eyes closed, and his mind was constantly recalling every detail of last night and the intelligence information he had collected. Yesterday, under his hard work, Zhang Yunhua was very effective in selling information about the royal family and provided him with a lot of information. First of all, what can be determined for the time being is that the Zhang family does not know about the ruins yet, nor does it know that there is a golden mountain comparable to the Void Temple, hidden under their noses. However, the bad news is that the relic is currently hidden in a medium-sized secret realm controlled by the royal family. It is probably very difficult to enter. I have harvested wool from the imperial family twice in a row, and got a certain little silly dragon, plus the divine ability. No matter how stupid the royal family is, they will notice something is wrong now, and they will definitely guard me. If I hadn't made sacrifices this time, used Yunhua as a breakthrough, used a beautiful man trick, and wasted a lot of words, I'm afraid it would be difficult to know these things. It seems that it will be difficult to access the ruins in a short time. We need to plan carefully. However, I also have a backup plan. Yunhua, the 6th Highness of the Empire, is not stupid. She must have guessed some of my purposes and ideas. With her character, she may help secretly. Of course, with her sluttish temperament, she will probably use this as an excuse to come over and sit here, use this matter as a blackmail, and talk to me all night long. We are all adults. There is no need to explain some things too clearly. It's enough to understand it well. As long as she can provide help, some trivial sacrifices can still be tolerated. Although the Chen family is now powerful, Chen Beiyuan is still a little afraid of the behemoth of the royal family. If it were any other top family, he would have more methods at his disposal. But it is not easy for the Jiang family to secure their position as the boss of the empire. Jiang Zhiming has 2 8th-grade war emperors. One is Jiang Bai, the principal of Donghua Academy, and the other is Zhang Tianhong, the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guard. These two are the strongest pillars of the royal family. However, if this is the case, the royal family will not be so fearful to all the top aristocratic families and the Chen family. What really makes all the top families fearful is the ancestor of the Jiang family who lives in seclusion deep in the palace. That old monster has lived for at least 800 years. 8th Grade War Emperor's lifespan is only 500 years. Even if he continuously takes life-prolonging treasures, they will completely lose their effectiveness due to the effect of the medicine. At most, he will only live 100 or 200 more years. But the ancestor of the Jiang family has never died. He even holds a birthday banquet every 100 years, inviting war emperors from major families to. 500 years ago, he was the strongest of the human race. 500 years later, this old guy's strength is even more unfathomable. Chapter 225, Part 2. Many people are speculating whether he has taken that step.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.